All right, guys, as usual, I am late, but we are here. I have my buddy that I've been trying to get on this podcast for quite a while. Wolf of Walmart is hanging out with us. Dude, it's been probably 4 or 5 attempts where our schedules just always end up misaligning.
Yep.
And I've actually even literally jumped on some of your like quick Instagram lives when we've been having a conversation, and it was easier just to do it in person. But
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Dude, thanks for having
So,
me
for
on
those of
here.
you who
I
don't know
appreciate
who
it.
he is, he's over in California. So it's in the past. It's still yesterday for him over there. But a lot of my audience is East Coast based, so a lot of us are getting ready for bed, and you're over there rigging tackle, and could probably still go
Yep.
fish for a few hours if you really wanted to.
Yeah, I got 2 hours, good two hours of sunlight left, man. But I mean, to be honest, like I rarely will you see me in like my outfit right now, like a tank top. Like, yes, I'm a Californian, but no, I don't surf every day, and I'm not really a tank top flip flops kind of guy most of the time. But right now it's 109 outside, so my
Dude, yeah,
garage
you
is
sent me that photo. I was like, that is
yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, so and my garage is hotter than that right now, so I'm just trying to survive at the moment. So I was like, tank
That's
top
got
it
to
is,
be
dude.
That's got to be rough this time of year. Like, you do like the like you have to go? You get to choose. Like, do you go early morning to beat the heat, or do you just suck it up and go fish when you just deal with it?
Yeah, so I really try to go early morning to beat the heat because that's
Yep.
ideal. And there's a couple of places where I know the bite windows are pretty good right now, like specific times of day, especially in the mornings, just because of the heat. Like once that heat really gets cranking, if you don't have a good cover, like a good area of cover or a good area of shade, chances of you getting a fish is like it's
Yep.
it gets really tough. But there's a couple spots I know at a good time of days to go in the morning. But I also have some good afternoon spots. It just really like I'm a father of two, a husband. I own my own business, so I'm working all the time. Once you own your own business, you're basically married to it. So it is a second
Yep.
marriage, and so I go when I get a window. If I'm like, oh, I got
Yep.
30 minutes between this and that, I'm hitting the water. I know
Yep.
right where I'm going. I wish it was that as convenient with the kayak, but I work in construction, so I need the bed of my truck, or else I would just have the kayak on me at all times. So a lot
Oh,
of a lot of my yeah, a lot of my fishing's the bank sands lately, just because it's what I got available to me. Every now and then the wife is good enough to me where she's like, "All right, go out and get on your kayak and do your thing." And I'm like, "Yeah," so like,
yeah. I will say, if you're gonna do like content creation and just being an angler in general, you have to have a supportive spouse, or you're screwed. Because like, I could imagine having like a wife that wouldn't that I'm spoiled, I guess I should say, because literally, like I'm fishing with Bobby this weekend.
oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
get to go out.
hell
I
yeah,
get to go out in the boat, and like I just was like, "Hey, Bobby's coming to Burlington." He hit me up. He literally mentioned it in the podcast, like on the live stream, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, going fishing in Burlington. You should just meet me." So like I've been texting him all week, but like I'm just like my whole fishing thing is, hey, I'm leaving at probably 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll be back at 2, maybe. I don't really know because when it comes to Bobby roast beef, you never really know how long things are going to take if you've ever hung out with him. Or, I mean, hell, you guys have
hmm
seen my podcast with him that go 3.5 hours. So
yeah. No,
it's
I
it's
love
one
it.
of those things.
Dude. Every time, well, the one time I've only got to hang out with Bobby one time because, like you said, I'm over here on the West Coast. So I don't really get to
Right.
see and hang out with everybody as much. But I got to hang out with him at the Columbus Expo, and dude, we were actually in the same room together, and like we all kicked it because there's a bunch of bunk beds and stuff like that. It was really cool.
Yep.
But dude, Bobby, first off, love Bobby Ortiz. That man can carry a conversation like nobody. Like that
He's
guy,
in the right business, man.
it is, and it's like there's a lot of people like myself. I'll totally call myself out on it. Like I'm real good at junk conversation, random thoughts, and talking, and because my brain's firing every direction all the time. So the context of my conversation is not necessarily full of substance all the time. If it's fishing, it's fishing. Like I can talk fishing all day, but My conversation isn't always full of substance, but he always has substance and depth to what he's talking about. Where I'm like,
Yep.
that's awesome. Like you just whatever you just said entered us into a whole new realm of conversation that's going to last like another 15 minutes. Like he's
Yep.
just got that gift of gab, and it's awesome. So, and
What's
then on top
funny
of that,
though
he's just a
too
fun
is
guy. So,
it's fun to see him try to do the content stuff now though, because Bobby is being Bobby in his YouTube
yes,
videos. He's not
yes,
censoring himself. He
no,
is not. You are getting a glimpse of what it's like to hang out with Bobby Roast Beef when you watch those YouTube videos.
and
It's
it's
funny,
always an
like it.
adventure. Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. Like it's just what's cool. It was actually really cool. I went to Slay. So I did a Slay Nation tournament in New Hampshire. My first
Mhm.
time ever going to New Hampshire. I actually was supposed to be camping last weekend, and we had a major like rainstorm up here that flooded everything out. And the campground I was trying to get to, literally, you couldn't get to it. The road was washed out. So I said, "Screw it," and I'm just keeping the vacation time and just doing basically a stay home and go fish, weekend. And I decided to just enter into a Slay Nation tournament in New Hampshire. Screw it, right? Never been to New Hampshire, never fished this body of water, and lost him for a
Is
minute there. Looks like
that me?
you broke up a
Hang
little
on.
bit there. You coming back? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Was that me or you? Because all of a sudden the whole
Yeah, something broke. I don't know if it was me or what's going on, but looks like he's broke up
yeah.
a little bit there.
Sorry about that.
You still
I
hear
got.
me or you just can't see me?
I wish I had better service out in my garage. Um,
Nah, you're
I'm doing
good.
my best. Let me see what
So
I can
yeah,
do.
so literally, dude, I get there, right? And you're in the live stream, so you'll
Yeah,
appreciate
I
this
just.
probably more than
Yeah,
most.
yeah, I hear you. Just fine. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Yeah, it's a little bit better. Yeah, I can hear you now for sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, dude, so I'm sitting there setting my kayak up, right? Doing the
Is it? Is
standard.
it me?
I think you're breaking up a little bit. Yeah, mine's still showing me, guys. I don't know if you guys in the chat can you see him or not, because I can't. But sometimes it's just the host that can't see what's going on.
So I see
There we go.
myself
Yeah,
now.
you're
I see
back
you.
now. Yeah,
This is a fun game. Yeah, good. Am I glitchy at all or
you're good now. It looks like it's coming back.
cool?
Looks like it's
Sorry
better
about
now.
that, man.
No, dude, you're
Yeah.
good. Yeah, so literally, dude, I walk out of my truck. Now I'm dressed like this. Like I don't have anything
Mhm.
vignette based at all, right? Pull
Mhm.
in, drop my kayak off, set it up, start setting up my kayak. This guy walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, is Bobby Roast Beef as fun to hang out with in person as he is on his podcast?" And I'm like, "Who? I don't even know who this dude is." So then I was like, "What the hell?" Then somebody else walks over, and then somebody pulls in and starts unloading her kayak, and they're like, "Oh, Cheryl's here, Cheryl Bentley."
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
unloading the kayak to fish the tournament. And I'm like, I ended up messaging Bobby and I was like, dude, you have a pretty solid following in New Hampshire because at least 3 people recognized me of all people and recognized me through your podcast
Yep.
because I'm
Yep.
always injecting myself into Bobby's podcast in some way or another just because we're buddies and I like to mess with them. But
Yeah. Yeah,
But yeah, dude,
dude.
it's crazy how that all like it's weird how actually, and you could probably appreciate this more. I guess you're going to be able to like speak to this more. Is like it's weird how the like networking of content creation works because you meet people that you have no reason to meet and have
Yes.
conversations with. I mean, you're in California and you know Bobby Roast Beef from Massachusetts. Like that's a perfect example of like how that
Yeah.
happens.
Oh, so like it's crazy how all that kind of transpired in a way. So I am, I fish, and when I get a second to fish, if I can't fish with my homies, I'm fishing by myself. And what I like to do when I'm fishing is some people listen to music, some people listen to the the sound of the water and silence, whatever. That's
Yep,
cool. I like to listen to podcasts. I also do it at work.
do the
I'm a
same
huge
thing.
podcast consumer just because it's like a one-sided conversation with basically like a buddy where you don't have to talk, but you guys are both interested in the same thing. So it's really cool, you know?
Yep,
And so I got into a lot of fishing podcasts, and Jigs and Bigs was one of them. I mean, I can label them right now. Like, Mondays the catch, Tuesdays tackle talk, and then Bobby Roast Beef usually landed on like Bobby led Jigs and Bigs. It comes out on Tuesday, but I usually listen to it on Wednesday.
yep.
Thursday I get the Bass Kayak and beers, and then Friday I get the uh, Bass and Brews. So
Yep.
that was like my schedule basically. So when I'm fishing on those days or whatever, I had those guys to listen to,
Yep.
and so I was just always like really listening, and I got in. I've been a part of Dark Horse Tackle for a very long time. I know I'm not wearing any Dark Horse Tackle stuff right now, but it's too hot to put on an actual t-shirt, you know.
Don't worry, I
um,
won't tell Zach.
yeah, he'll know anyways. Somehow he'll find out, and, whatever.
Yep.
But no, so I got it with Dark Horse Tackle. I've been with them for a long time now, and so when me and Zach are always talking, and I was like, dude, it'd be really sick if maybe this could work out. And I've been doing fishing for a couple years, and I've been listening to podcasts for like the better part of a year and a half. And in these podcasts, I was like, you know what? I don't have any way, like, as a fan, as a consumer, like you guys, like Jigs and Bigs, all these guys have done so much for me. If there's anything I could do for them besides give them a follow and a like, like let me do
Right.
something for them. And so I told Zach, I said, give me some extra boxes, I'll pay for them. I'll need you to send them to these addresses. And he's like, okay, no problem. And so I sent to everybody like Bobby, Sean, Alex, Paul, like I just sent a bunch of boxes, I knew the guys from the catch were already a part of Dark Horse, so I didn't, necessarily need to send them anything.
Right.
But I love them. I love Matt and Brad. They're amazing. And so I just sent everybody like a thank you, like a hey man, just you don't have to do anything with this. You don't even have to fish this. It's just a thank you.
Yep.
And that got the ball rolling on a relationship with Jigs and Bigs and Dark Horse Tackle, which then in turn, I'm, kind of put me in a place where like I now get the chance to communicate with these guys. And so
Yep.
that's really how it all started was just me trying to show a little bit of gratitude and say thank you.
Dude, it's
And
funny because that's similar of how I met Bobby. Was I started listening to the same thing. I listen to all the ones you just listed. Throw in like Serious Angler. Sometimes I'll throw in like Mercer's podcast just because it's interesting at times.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and I met Bobby because I was actually trying to become the tournament director for Vermont for Slate Nation. And I wanted to try to promote it to get more people to join because I was having trouble getting people to sign up. So I
yeah.
reached out to Bobby to get on his show to talk about it, thinking that it was a local enough podcast that I might be able to get some people either from Mass to fish in Vermont or get guys from Vermont to do it. And then I just started talking to Bobby from there, went down to a trade show, hung out with him. That's actually how I met Abe. And then turned around and just started like I I always do that anyways when I talk to guys is like if I lived anywhere near you, I'd be like, dude, let's go fishing next weekend. Like that's
Oh
just
yeah,
how I
yeah,
operate. Like
yep.
there's no harm in going fish. People fish with everybody. So then, like Bobby wanted to go fishing, so then I met up with him, did like a camp out. We recorded a podcast. We met up a bunch of times. We've already fished once this year, but dude, that was awful.
Oh yeah.
We went to a body of water. It was in like March.
Oh, oh.
Dude, we hit this body of water, and everywhere else was okay. Dude, we hit the body of water. My fish finder read 38-degree water temp. It started to snow on us while we were fishing. And we were like,
Oh.
yeah, we're done. We're going home. And that was the last time we ended up linking up schedules. And then he was going to that concert this weekend. And that's why he was like, dude, I got the boat. I'm bringing the boat to Burlington. Let's go fishing. You're right there. That's like 40 minutes from my house. I'm like, yeah, dude, let's go. And the thing is, with Bobby, the difference between like fishing with like a content guy and fishing with like a fishing guy is like I can make a video and not catch a damn fish.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
gonna be just sheer commentary the whole time.
Yes, dude. Dude, it's gonna be so good. Like you two together, you're like, because Bobby's, working on some stuff about like, I know he's working on some stuff with bringing people fishing on the boat and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And dude, if you get you two together, dude,
It's gonna be so much fun, dude.
honestly, I hope all the fish on you guys, but I have a feeling that if you guys don't catch any fish, the content is gonna be so much funnier because at some
I
point there's
told
gonna be bickering of some
Yep.
sort, and
Yep. That's
it's
actually
gonna.
so it's funny is the tournament video I'm about to release. The last two tournament videos, last two times I fished with my buddy,
Mhm.
literally has been the banter has been better than the We talked about. He literally actually said to me the exact words Bear Fishing said to me is, "When we fish together, can I just straight shit talk you the entire time we're fishing?" And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Dude, because it ends up making really good content."
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we're not really like aggressive with each other, but it's just like
There we
in the
go.
tournament, and I'll give you guys a little kind of sneak peek into my tournament video. We went 3.5 hours without catching a fish in this tournament, and we were both, and it was 90 degrees with like there was so much humidity that when we got to the body of water, you couldn't see 2 feet in front of your face because it was that foggy, and that got burnt off by the sun. So we were basically in a sauna, and it was
Oh,
all salty as hell. And literally in the video, right before I catch a fish, we're arguing about where we're gonna fish next, and it's all I put it all in. So I'm like, dude, where do you want to go fish over there, way over there where those guys have been fishing? He's like, yeah, and I'm like, why? He's like, because it's been not pressured. I'm like, it's all been like literally we're
yeah.
arguing back and forth, and then I'm like, hook set. And it's just like the best video I've ever made because I'm like, dude, that's real fishing. That's real
Yep.
fishing with a good fishing buddy.
Yep.
There is no like sweet, nice words with your fishing buddy. It's always like, dude, why are you over there? And the thing is what's funny about us too is he's very contradictory style wise, which is good for a team. But like
Oh,
he is
absolutely.
a
Absolutely.
up in 6 inches of water, working a wacky rig, a Ned rig, like dink and dunk. He will pick apart a freaking rock for an hour. And I'm
Yeah.
too ADHD for that shit. So I'm
Yep.
chatterbait, crankbait. I need to go move, throw a swim jig. My idea of finesse fishing up until last year was throwing a quarter ounce jig. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was finesse for me, was dragging a jig.
Yep.
I'm not
Yep.
throwing a 16. I'm not Bobby Roast Beef with his BFS setup throwing a 132nd sounds Bronco blade. Like that's not my style of fishing. And
Yeah.
so like I had to learn a lot from. I will actually say if you have a buddy who has a contradictory style, it is actually beneficial to go fish a tournament with them because
Oh, yeah.
because with the Slay Nation trail, you're not allowed to separate. You have to be within 30 yards of each other. So I can't just leave them.
Yeah. Yep.
So I have to stay near them. And I have to be like, dude, why are you still fishing that rock? But he'll explain it. And then the problem is, and the aggravating thing about it is, we've done 4 tournaments now, and he is yet to fail at pulling like a 17, 18, 19 out of 6 inches of water that I've already casted to. That's
Yeah.
the aggravating, annoying thing about it is I've fished that, walked away from it, and he goes, "Hold on, I need to get up in there." And this dude is like so shallow, he's practically got a foot on the bank. You know what I mean? Like he is that shallow. He might as well be bank fishing. And then
Yeah.
he'll be like, "How about this?" And then he'll pull a freaking 19 out of there. And you're like, "Where did this? How did you conjure this back? Like, where did it come from?" Because it wasn't
Yes.
there 5 minutes ago when I came through.
You you are explaining me and my buddy Andy's relationship to a T. Like first off, we met, we're work buddies. Our wives say that we're work wives, but whatever. Me and Andy started. Andy got me in. Like he's kept asking me to go kayak fishing with him. I'm like, I don't swim, so no, thank you. I'll rather be in a sturdy place. But I ended up breaking down year or two later, and like, all right, kayak, and let's try this out. And I just got a really sweet offer or a really sweet deal on a kayak, and I couldn't pass it up. So now if you're listening to this and you do not kayak fish, first off, I don't know why you're listening to this if you don't kayak fish. But second off, if you haven't kayak fished yet, be prepared because if you are as obsessed as you are with fishing, you will become obsessed with your kayak and kayak fishing.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yep.
just modding my kayak alone is like a whole nother like
Yep.
it's like I'm torn between two women, like should I sit in here and mod on my kayaks, this afternoon, or should I take it out and actually go catch some like it's anyways. So I finally got a kayak, and so we started going kayak fishing. And Andy is very, very finessing. He's very strategic. He doesn't really even use heavy rods for the most part. Like
My, bu-
it's all lights, ultra lights, mediums. He's got one medium heavy. Like he keeps it pretty mellow, dude. And this guy, we've literally fished the same water and same thing. I'll burn a whole bank and bam, bam, like 5, 6 frogfish. Cool. Well, then I look behind me and he's just dropping a wacky worm, or dropping a Nico or whatever, a drop shot. He loves his drop shot. He's actually kind of talked me into a drop shot, but I don't throw a drop shot at anything less than 3/8 of an ounce. So it's
Right.
not necessarily drop shotting at that point. It's fast. But he'll be picking behind me, dude, and he's just pulling out tanks, and I'm like,
Yep.
of course you would. Of course they didn't want my frog. They want your stupid, worm that they've seen 100 times. But there was one day where he was throwing a worm, couldn't buy a bite, and I was ripping him off the same points with frogs, like just boom, here's 16, boom, here's the 17. Like, yeah. So, you
Yeah.
know,
It's
it,
it.
it only happened once in my favor. Usually Andy wins. Finesse wins the game as much as I hate to admit it.
Mm.
I refuse to throw it unless it's absolutely necessary. But yeah, finesse usually tends to win the game.
See, I'm kind of going both ways with it. So I've really embraced the like, and it's actually weird. This year I can't get a Ned rig bite to happen. Last year I converted to fishing the Ned a lot. And to be fair, what I consider a Ned is a little different because I'm throwing that. Have you seen the Gambler Power Ned head? So it's basically a regular shroom head. It's got a
Mm-hmm.
screw, like a kind of like one of those screw keepers on it, but it's
Yeah.
got a small fiber like jig guard on it. So it's like 1/8 ounce jig head, but it's shaped like a Ned rig. So it's really, really cool for using like it's kind of like a power finesse. So I started catching fish on that a lot. Looks like we're starting to lose you again. You still here with me? Man, I lost him there, guys. See if I pop him back in. See if it comes back. Well, while he's gone, guys, if you have any questions for him too about what it's like fishing over on the West Coast, I know one of the things over there is the baits are definitely different. We may have actually lost him. I'm gonna text him real quick, but he, yeah, he dropped right out. He actually has Instagram, guys. So if you don't follow him, he does a lot of live streams where he tinkers with his kayak. And if you like that kind of stuff, he does like a full video about how he's customizing it and shows you guys exactly what he's doing. Scott Vermonter, you might appreciate it because he really goes into like, oh, I'm adding this and this is why I'm adding it, and I am really, really going to block this guy. Um, and he's really like in depth on how he why he puts what he puts on there. So it's really cool to see him break all that down. I actually jumped into one of his pods and he was kind of talking about what he was going to put and where he was going to put it. But until he comes back, I do want to announce, guys, I know this is a Thursday and I said the podcast is going to be on Tuesday. I had to work on Tuesday and then I had the opportunity to bring Dave on. So I decided to bring him on here. But as a general rule, guys, I'm going to be running the pod on Tuesdays, every Tuesday that I possibly can. I do have some really cool guests lined up. One of the guests that's supposed to come on next week is actually the owner of Yak Gadget. Scott Vermonter, again, you're going to want to check that one out. So he makes, if you guys have seen my videos, that horizontal rod stager where I have my rods flat next to me, that's a Yak Gadget accessory. And they do a lot of really cool stuff. And they actually got some more capability that they were talking about at ICAST. And that's going to be a really interesting company because they do a lot of stuff that you would tinker with and want. Like if you would thought of something that, oh man, I really wish I had my rods were horizontal, for example. They have rod stagers that have like 3 rods, 2 rods, 1 rod and a paddle holder, 1 rod and a measuring board holder. They have a lot of different kind of stuff like that. They have anchor trolleys, they have crates, they have cell phone holders, they have all this stuff that there is some stuff like it on the market, but there's also not the same level of stuff. And their stuff is actually bringing it. Actually, I was just talking about Yak Rod or Yak Gadget, dude.
Oh, dude. I love JT. Sorry, dude. My phone completely overheated, and I looked at the thermometer in my garage. It said 137. So I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
that'll do
that's
it.
probably yeah. That would be why." So hopefully we got a little bit better going on in here now. I just jumped in my
Oh
truck,
yeah,
turned on the air conditioner.
I actually have JT on next Tuesday. He's supposed to
Dude,
call.
that's awesome, dude. I love JT. He's in a land that
Have
is
you actually
ever
meet him or
changing.
talked to him?
Say what?
Have you met him in person or just talked to him on like?
Oh no, I met him in person. I shook his hand. Like that was very important between the relationship. Like when I had got some Yak Gadget stuff and I was really interested in this stuff, and I
Yeah.
talked to a bunch of people who knew him and was like, okay, he's a good guy, he's a good guy. And I was going to the Columbus Expo, and I was like, well, let me, when I'm there, like maybe we can link up, say what's up, you know, say hi. I'd love to shake your hand. He's, I'd love to shake your hand too. And so we chatted a little bit via like DMs and like emails and stuff. And then I met him in person, shook his hand. I mean, we talked each other's ear off for a good portion of that show. Like, I definitely stopped by his booth a few times, and it became a good relationship. So now I'm on pro staff for him over at Yak
Oh,
Gadget.
really? That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude,
And
his stuff it's interesting because it's like stuff that I would build myself if I had a 3D printer. You know what I mean? Like it's not, and it sounds backwards, but it's like it sounds almost like subpar, but it's like it's what I wanted. Like he has rod stager, but it's not just, oh, here's 3 rods. It's here's 2 rods and a paddle holder. Here's 2 rods and a measuring board. Here's 4 rods. Here's 1 rod. Like he thought of like, why would you want to configure your kayak in what 10 different ways? And like you were saying before you dropped off, like I actually really like tinkering with my kayak, like you said, getting it dialed in and making it efficient. Like I've had people literally say to me, how do you know, like, how do you get to those rods where they are? And I'm like, I literally can go and Robin Hood the vertical rods that are behind me, and I know exactly where everything is because I've set my kayak up specifically because I know where everything is. And I literally have gotten to the point where I have like a rod holder that I designated for a spinning rod so the handle's not hitting other rods. And like the
yeah, yeah,
horizontal rod holder, I keep that for like the rods that are kind of like in reserve so that I can open it up, take rod out that I need, switch stuff around. And even when I get a new kayak, like that's going on my new kayak. And like the
yeah.
organization of like, I want to get the crate. Do you have the crate
I do,
or no?
I do,
I
I
want.
do. I have
How
the
does
I have
that
the Yak
work
Gadget
with
crate.
the? How does that work with the? Is it like, is there shelves in there or is it just they're stacked on top of each other?
So you're talking about the Yak Gadget crate, right? The
Yeah,
not
yeah,
not the underseat storage, but the back crate. So
yeah. The actual
it,
back one. Yeah.
So I love the crate, especially for like where I'm at in fishing, because I'm still getting semi comfortable in my kayak. Like I'm very comfortable in my kayak now, trust me. But like I have a huge fear of water. Like I have a huge fear of like I'm not a good swimmer. I panic a lot when I'm in the water.
Gotcha.
So just being in the water already puts me like my nerves are kind of running. So that's it's like a whole nother level of passion when I get when I get on my
Right.
kayak
And then
fishing,
trying to
because
turn
this
around and
is
drop
like
a box is a little
yeah,
scary. Yeah.
right. So that's what I was getting to. So this is overcoming a huge hurdle. Well, the next hurdle came was because I got the rod stager first. I had the 4 rod rack next to me,
Yep.
right? And honestly, I
I will not
really
have
love
it.
those
I will
things.
never not have a horizontal rod storage again. Now
Oh,
it's too easy.
oh my gosh, absolutely. Especially like the summer out here, it's a lot of frogging and then a follow up. A lot of frogging and follow up. So it's just dope. You can be boom, boom, boom. Oh, they missed it. Set the frog rod down in the stager, grab the other rod, boom, and then
Yep.
it's almost like having a deck, like in a
Yep.
basketball. It's pretty bad. But anyway, so turning around for me and like getting up on the seat was like really awkward, especially if I'm going to go and then lift and then have to dig down into something. So the way it's built is it's angled forward like this. Like if this is the back of my kayak and this is my seat right here. It's angled towards my seat. I mean, you can angle it away, but angle it towards my seat. I can lift up the flap, and those dividers you can build it without the dividers, or and just have one container, or you can put one divider in, and that's it. Or you can put all the dividers. I put all the
Okay.
dividers in because I like having stuff in a certain place, like and the way how accessible it is because the dividers are angled as well, so everything's pointed right at you. You're not lifting up and out. You're literally just sliding it towards you. And oh man, it's literally like I've gotten to the point where I can start to reach behind me and just grab the small things that I need, which
See,
is
I've been considering it
oh.
because what I have right now is actually a tool crate. While you're in construction, it's literally a Milwaukee tool crate.
I saw that you got the Milwaukee pack out box. I was like,
It's
yeah, my
literally the pack
dude.
out box
Yeah,
back there, dude, and
yeah,
it's literally drilled holes with zip ties and PVC pipe for the rod
yeah.
holders. You know,
My
redneck.
man. No,
But
I love it. Yeah.
what happens with that is the boxes are vertical. So the one thing about the boxes being horizontal is they're also like you're not getting your baits smashed together and then you're trying to peel treble hooks apart when you get baits out of there. But also like when you take one bait out and they're all stacked, they fall forward. And then you got to push them back and then
Yep.
one falls back and then you're like constantly fucking with it and it's driving me nuts. So I'm like I was really looking at the bigger one because I was like, and the rod holders have the actual like slot that the like
For the real seat. Yep.
real seat goes down in, so they don't turn, they don't move around on you. And I was like, I am really considering it. And honestly, what's really cool about Yak Gadget stuff is the weight. It's wicked light. Like the plastic that he makes it out of, it's durable, but it's not like heavy. You know, so
Yes.
you're actually saving a lot of weight in your kayak by having his stuff because like the rod stays are super light. It's
Yeah. The
durable,
rock.
and don't think like I'm saying like it's cheap. It's just it's a plastic that's a lighter material, so you don't have. It's not like a 2x4. You know, it's not like it's not heavy.
Right. Right.
Not
No,
a,
exactly. And I so the way that box is built, I have the extra. I have the big box. I had to get the
yeah,
big box because I'm extra and I need options.
yeah,
So
I'm the same way.
yeah. So I got the big box. It holds basically just about anything that I really want inside in the dividers. Like, I mean, barring putting another box in there, like it fits everything that I need, really, and more. Like I even put like those little spoolers that you can get for like $20 at Sportsman's Warehouse or Dick's or whatever. I got one of those back there too, just because I have extra space. So I just tuck it in there because I blow up reels sometimes. Shout out
Yeah.
to Michael from Sack Pig. I blew up his reel like nobody's business.
Dude,
um,
I do it all the time. That's the thing. That's the other thing that I like. Guys show that in videos. Like, if you're not bird's nesting a reel, you're not fishing hard enough, dude. It's so
right.
straight and simple. Like, especially
Yep.
frogging.
Yep.
Dude, it's
Oh.
real easy. You start to cast a frog, the wind picks up, and because as soon as the
Yep.
wind hits that little plastic frog in midair, it just almost stops it in its tracks. It's nuts.
Yep.
Like,
Or you get one bad skid because the water's just a little bit ripply. You get one bad skid. That's a wrap. Especially when you're using like 65 to 80 pound braid. You're like, oh, this is going to be a while. But no, so that box really benefits me, especially for my comfort level. But on top of that, because I got the bigger box, the cool thing about this is there's 6 spaces for rods in there, right?
right.
Four in the back and two on the side, one on each side. You can kick the ones. He has swivel plates. You can kick the ones on each side to kick back,
Oh,
so they're not right up on you, so you don't have to worry so much about
dude,
your
I
casting.
didn't
Yeah,
know that.
it's pretty sick,
See,
dude.
that
And
makes me happy, dude, because that's actually cool. I didn't know that.
and all the plastic and the whole thing, it comes completely, like disassembled, like every other box. It has all these pre-drill holes, so it's literally like you can't miss. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't put it together wrong. There's no way,
Yeah.
and that's super easy. And dude, the top flap has a zipper pouch. I throw all my sunscreen and stuff in there. Anything that would take up extra space around my feet goes right in that little pouch.
Yep.
Easy peasy. Yeah.
That's
So,
I'm definitely looking at it. I'm gonna probably yeah, that's probably my next investment, honestly. The thing is right now I'm saving up for my goal is to try to go to a native next year. I want
okay.
a Titan X.
Yeah.
Um,
And 12 of the
I
four.
want the bigger
12 of
boat.
the. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna get the 12, dude. But I will say, if you've seen the 10.5, that does not look like a 10.5 foot boat when you
No,
see it
it's
in
not.
person. It looks monstrous compared to like I want the 12.5 and that's what I'm gonna end up going with. But I've seen the 10.5 at trade shows and I'm like, this is a different boat. Like this is not the same as the Old Town. And again, I want to be very clear. I'm not knocking my Old Town. Love my Old Town. But I'm a big boy and I like to carry a lot of tackle and I want to have the gear. I'm actually so infatuated with kayak fishing that I'm selling my bass boat. I'm done with it. I'm done with
Really?
having a bass boat. Yeah, I don't want it. I'm gonna literally list it and sell it for what I owe in it, and just get it out, get it gone. And then I'm probably this winter. Winter is a thing that happens in the Northeast that you wouldn't know about because you guys just have summer all year long. Um, but I can't
Yeah.
fish from basically November till like March, and I'm probably gonna literally go get a part-time weekend job and just start
Oh.
chalking money away. And then my goal is to either talk to a kayak dealer and see if they'd be interested in like staffing up, or go to like a trade show because you went to Columbus and I'm sure you saw like it's nuts what they'll sell a kayak for at a trade show. Like sometimes
Oh.
you're like, holy crap! Like I wish I had the money and I was smart because I went to that trade show in New England and
Mhm.
that Marlboro one that Bobby was at,
Yeah.
and no joke, dude, they had a fully rigged Titan X for $2,200,
Really?
and for three
Fully
grand
rigged.
they would sell it with a Newport for 3 grand.
With the
So you
battery?
did five, no battery. That's the only thing you had to buy
Oh,
yourself.
okay.
Still, dude, a Newport, the kayak
Yeah.
alone is like 3,200. So with the Newport for
Oh,
three
yeah.
grand, you're basically getting the motor for free.
Yep. Dude, that's
That's kind of where I want
so
to go.
I'm kind of blessed in that way. First off, I don't have nuclear winter, so I don't have to worry about a zombie apocalypse. But second off, I have a kayak shop, Kayak City. It's like one of the largest kayak shops out here in Northern California, and it is, I think, about a half a mile to my. It looks like left, but half a mile to my right here, down the street from me. And I've gotten to get to know those guys, and I've actually got to get on staff with those guys, and they're they're super good to me. They're too good to me, but like I get to look at the all the natives, all the bona fides, all the Hobies, everything coming in. I get to sit in it. I can put my hands on it, and they just told me the other day that if I felt like it, I could take one of those out and try them out, shoot a little video about it, talk about the boat, like just by all means go for it. So I actually can test drive them now too. So
That's what's cool is that's the one thing. So my plan is, and this isn't like I said, my goal is to try to like get that kind of thing where I have a relationship with it. There is no here in Vermont. There's not very many fishing kayak dealers.
oh yeah,
You're buying a fishing kayak here. You're going to like Dick's Sporting Goods, Walmart, um, West Marine. Like that's where you're going. You're going to big box stores. There's not most of the kayak dealers here are whitewater. They're not selling. They have you can get like they can get them, but they're not going to be demoing native Titan X. They're going to be demoing the
yeah,
whitewater edition. They might have a Crescent Shoaly, but that's about the farthest they're going to get into that world. So I
yeah,
have to go out of state. I have to go to like Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and travel. But my plan is what I really want to do, and I'm kind of like from my content creator brain, is I want to talk to a kayak dealer once the season slows down. I'm not going to bug them during the busy season, but I want to
yeah.
kind of like I'm sold on a Titan X, but I could be convinced to go to another brand. So I kind of want to go to some kayak dealers, film my like journey of picking my kayak. Have them give me a demo, have them show me what's different about it. Because the one thing I will say, if you're buying a kayak, the pictures do not do any kayak justice. If
No,
you
not at
look at
all.
an Old Town and you look at the specs and you go, oh, it's 38 inches wide and it's 10.5. Take that kayak and you look at my kayak, and I have a photo of my kayak next to Bobby Roast Beef's 12.5 native, and my kayak looks like Bobby's kayak's infant son.
Yep.
It's not the same boat.
No, no,
I
not
don't
even
know
close.
where they get these specs from and where they think that kayak is 38 inches wide, because my 26-inch catchboard can fit on top of both of my gunnels in my kayak. So I
Yeah.
don't know where that other 12 inches are coming from. So that's
It's
what I
like
mean.
right.
It's the
It's
like
in the middle,
plastic
down halfway down the
is
gunnel
top
underwater.
bottom. It's like the plastic between the interior. I don't really know where they get these measurements from. But like I want a wider kayak because my long term goal is to upgrade to like a native, a Hobie, something bigger. And then once I get that initial budget shock and I'm recovered and I'm able to actually eat something other than peanut butter sandwiches and I can actually survive.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
then I want to throw like a Newport on it. I don't really care about having like an XI3, but I wouldn't mind like a little Newport motor or something like that on the back for
Oh
tournament
yeah.
purposes and just being able to
Yep.
just travel, cover water. So of course, then I got to buy the lithium battery. So then I got to, it's a bigger investment. But I kind of want to like get a kayak that I can build into because the one I have
Yes.
now, I'm maxed out. I can't do anything else with it.
Yep.
Old Town
Yep.
doesn't really have a platform to add a motor to. You can do it, but it's not ideal.
So I saw a guy. He had an Old Town, but it was the 12. The No, it was the big fish. It was the one with the Minn Kota on front. Is that a 12? I
Yep.
think it's a 12. Yeah, it has the Minn Kota on the front, right? Well, what he did was he literally, because you only get those little bit of track, right? You only get like 26 inches or 28 inches of track on both sides for the boat. So what he
Yep.
did was he took plywood and he did that seafoam deck stuff, and
Yep.
he handmade like and with track pins and everything like reversed onto that bolted a deck onto his boats where he doesn't even sit. He gets in and he stands the whole time. He's all dude, and he extended it a little bit wider than his kayak without making it. It stayed like he showed me. He was standing on the edge, and it
Yeah, dude.
wasn't
Old
flipping.
Towns are
So
wicked stable.
yeah. So he's all, dude, the boat's so stable, I can stand out here. I was like, oh, he's all, but I just gave myself so much more deck space, and like he basically made it like a stand-up mini John boat almost out of this Old Town. It was so sick, but he said, really, this is all I could come up with to get what I needed out of this boat. Like
Yep.
he's all, I had it for so many years, and it was great for what it was, but like he's saying the same thing. I'm ready to size up. I need more options. I want a boat that I can do more with. And it's been my experience that the Titan's a good boat. The PWR is a really good boat, and the PA, the Hobie PA, is an amazing boat.
Yeah.
All three
Those are
vessels, like
pretty much all of them.
yeah, you could do the world with. Like my homie Andy, he's been paddling around a little Pelican. Like he literally had a 2x4 to like jack up the seat a little bit
Yeah.
that he had like siliconed and screwed to the boat, and like it was like a cheap little Pelican, right? And I kept telling him like, man, come on, like I got this RVR, like I got blessed with a good first boat, I really did, and I got the Bonafide RVR. I love it. But he's just racking trying to get around on this little Pelican, and so finally I talked him into it. We went down to Kayak City. He got the all the stuff together, and he got himself a PA 12, not the
Yep.
14, just the 12. And he's like, bro, this is so much boat, and now
You
he's
can't go
doing this whole
back.
pedal, the little paddle drive.
Once you pedal,
Yeah, he's like, I
you
can
can't go
never go
back.
back to this. Yeah, and he let his wife use it one day, and now his wife wants a Hobie, so she wants him to sell her paddleboard. Like it's once you
Dude,
get in one of those
it's
boats, dude, it's a wrap.
yeah.
So
What's funny is
yeah,
I ended up in mine because of Alex Rudd. It's
really,
his fault. Yep. So I
oh
was watching his video about that freaking powered one when he had the autopilot. So I
yeah,
was watching that
autopilot. That's
video
what it is.
and he was talking about that thing and he was like, oh yeah, and the weight capacity is 500 pounds. And I went, so wait, stop. That's a $3,700 kayak and the weight rating is 500 pounds. I'm in a $200 Walmart Sun Dolphin. What the fuck's the weight capacity of this kayak? I found out as a bigger man, I personally was 50 pounds over the minimum weight capacity, the max weight capacity of my kayak. Had
Yes.
in a milk crate with 3,700 boxes,
Yep.
plastics, 5 rods, anchor. I was probably over 100. Now, granted, credit to Pelican because I was probably overloading that kayak by 150 pounds
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
fishing my ass off and going on like Lake Champlain in this thing. Like I was fishing my butt off. Like, but then I was like, okay, yeah, this is a concern, so I need to upgrade. So then I ended up looking, and I wanted an Old Town because that's what he had, and I thought, okay, yeah, that looks like a good kayak. And I got the stupidest deal you could ever get on an Old Town. So pre-COVID, I went to West Marine because my dad said, "Oh, I've seen Old Town kayaks. I think at West Marine because he has a big boat and he buys like actual like boat supplies from West Marine."
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
they screwed up and they listed the pedal drive at $900. Like the
Thank you. I'll buy that all
12.5.
day.
They literally the only mistake and the only regret I have about buying my Old Town is I should have bought 4 because I
Yeah.
could have
Right.
sold 3 and profited. Because
Oh yeah.
if I took 2 or 3 of them and sold them for half of what the retail was of those kayaks, I would have made 2 grand.
Oh yeah. All day. Yeah.
Because the
And
kayak at that time was listed at like 2 grand, and they had it listed at the paddle price. They screwed up their SKUs, so they had it listed at the paddle price, but with the pedal drive description and the photos from the pedal drive. So I bought it. I just pulled my credit card out and I just bought it. My
yep.
dad
I'll
ended up
take that
buying
right
one
now.
too. They called me, and I thought for sure that they were like, "Yeah, no, we can't. There's no way we can honor this, right?" And they're like, "Well, we don't have the 12.5, but we do have the 10.5 in the pedal drive." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can make that exception. That's fine." And they ended up
Yeah.
like they honored it, dude. Like they charged me like $900 on my credit card, and I've had that kayak for 4.5 seasons and put 20+ hours a week on that thing, and that kayak owes me. I love that kayak enough that I'm keeping it. It's going to be either a buddy kayak or a wife kayak or whatever. I
Yep.
just want the bigger one because, like I said, I'm looking to just unload. I want to unload my bass boat for whatever my current payoff is on my loan. I don't really care about making a profit on it. I want to just dump it.
Well,
And it's just because of the fact is your kayak, and this is the biggest thing about kayak fishing is my kayak can't break down unless I break my leg.
yep. Yep.
And I don't want to deal with gas. I don't want to deal with winterizing. I don't want to deal with charging my batteries so that my boat can start. If I forget to charge my battery in my kayak, big deal. I just can't run my fish finder today. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and
Yep.
ultimately, even a pedal drive kayak can only just become a paddle kayak.
Yep. Yep. Even
So
if the
unless
gears
I
break,
run
you
it
can
into
still
some
just.
sort of ridiculously sharp rock and cut a hole in the bottom of it that I can't figure out how to JB weld, I can't really ruin my kayak. And a lot of these newer kayaks and these roto molded kayaks, it's pretty hard to do damage to those things because they're pretty solid.
The
Like
holes are
maybe put
thick,
out of the back of
dude.
your truck on the highway or something, maybe. But other than that, dude, those things are solid.
Yeah, dude. I will say, like, we when I got mine, my Bonafide, I like Bonafide. I like Bonafide. I like Bonafide so much. The way they build out their kayaks, everything is pretty much plug and play. You know, you can put holes in your boat, but they have locations already
Yep,
designated that are the most convenient spots for you to do it.
yep.
And then everything else, they have so much track in those boats, like everything can just clip on this, that, and the other. So when I got my kayak, I got the Boondocks landing gear, so I could
I would
carry
add
it
that.
around.
That's one of the main motivations for me upgrading because Old Town really doesn't have a place to even mount something like that without messing up your plastic.
Right, exactly. And so I slapped that on. I made a video about it. I put it on the internet. It's way too long. It's way too detailed, but whatever. It's out there on YouTube. Um, I got to put all that together and I set it all up. And dude, runs like a dream. Now, when Andy got his Hobie PA, the way the hull is designed, they don't have track that is strong enough to support the Boondocks. So we had to penetrate the holes. But the cool thing is, Boondocks comes with these like brackets for said purpose. It's like this metal strip that has the piloted holes that you can literally just mount the whole uh, Boondocks landing gear bracket to, and you
Yep.
don't ever have to think about it again. So no matter what boat you get with it, they have an option for you. It's pretty cool.
Right.
But we were drilling through his boat. He just bought it, and we're like already putting holes in it. He's just like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Dude, it's the
But dude,
hardest thing.
he's
That's
he's
actually one of the reasons why I like that Titan because it's got all those plates everywhere for wiring and everything.
yes, yes. Same thing with the PWR. They have, and those plates are so cheap and replaceable that if you decide you don't like the connection there anymore, you can just go grab a new plate. It's not like you have to patch up the hole in your boat, or it's like
Yep.
everything's super accessible now. I have the RBR. I only have 2 plates, well, 3 plates in the whole boat. So everything's really inaccessible for
Right.
in-hole stuff. So I actually had a video. I've been using my GoPro 12. I got that from Red actually. But and it keeps overheating. So I did this huge video on putting lights, like the running lights, the red and greens, and then the interior lights and power to my boat for power to my USB. So I have two USB dongle ports so I can run two cameras, and then a third for a phone charger. But I did something really interesting with this because I'm using the Aqua batteries because there's nothing else that fits inside my hull. Everything would have to sit on top of my boat, you know? So
Yeah.
there's nothing that fits inside my hull. So I use the Aqua 20 amps for this. And I put the Aqua 20 amp inside with the power switch and everything inside the hull, closed it up. And before I did that, I reversed the hot neutral. Not people, people who know electrical know that, that's not necessarily the best thing to do. But what I did was when I reversed the lines, I made it a hard wire. So basically, in reversing those and running it straight, the port that goes from my phone charger at any given time, if that Aqua battery dies, I don't have to open up my boat and dig it in. I can just plug a charger, which I made out of an
And
old
reverse
Dakota
back.
lithium charger. Yeah, and I can just plug my boat in at night and charge the whole thing. And that boat will run for 4 days. Two cameras and the phone charger solid for 4 days.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
I
So
did the
I
same thing with
plugged in
my
my.
Z Pro.
Yeah, so I made this whole boat, or I made this whole thing, and then what ended up happening is my GoPro overheated. I got a lot of corrupted files, and I could never complete the video. So it's just
Yeah.
I got all this cool stuff on my boat now, and I can't really make a whole like, hey, this is how I did it. So I'm probably just gonna do an explanation video eventually. But I've also taken a back seat in a lot of my social media content and my YouTube lately, just because my daughter, she's turning one, or she turned one.
Yeah.
My wife quit her job because at first she gave me, she's like, hey, I'm going to work the rest of this time out at work, and you can just do your fishing video thing. If that works out for you, great. If not, we'll swap in a few months.
Yeah.
I said, that's fine. So that's why I had a ton of media out for a minute, and then now I own my own businesses, and so I'm always running around with. So the time that I have is shrank a
Yeah.
lot. But like I'd rather. Don't get me wrong. I love fishing and I want to do it. I don't necessarily want to be some social media or media guy. I would love to be able to help somebody, especially because I'm so new to this. So all I have is a construction background, what I've heard from all the podcasts over the years, and what my experience has been. And then other than that, I'm listening to everybody else for information, like you and me. Like you gave me your number that one night when we were talking about the boat and like trying to figure stuff
Yep.
out. Like because I was trying to figure out an anchor system. By the way, I got anchor wizards on my boat and I love them.
Yep.
But I haven't been able to really. All I wanted to do was be like, hey, I'm new. This is a new man's perspective. This is all new guy stuff. So please give me your opinions and like let me help the new guys. Let me make this as relatable as I can to somebody who's just getting into this.
Yep.
Because a lot of times I'll watch videos and these guys have been doing it for so long, they're not explaining certain steps that they're going through, which as construction knowledge, I know. But I also know from being a journeyman carpenter for so many years, I have apprentices that I need to explain every step to them so that they know how the finished product comes out. So I'm very good at elaborating on each step. So I figured I could just jump in and kind of help out where I could. Trying to help anybody who's willing to who wants to know.
Yep.
It's out there. Um, but as much as I love doing all that, like my family, dude, like I got to take care of my
Yeah.
family. So like I've kind of taken the back seat to a lot of that media stuff. I'm still doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Don't get me wrong. There's stuff coming down the line that's going to be really cool. I do a lot of stuff with Zach and Josh over at Dark Horse Tackle. I'm always communicating with like Bobby and a couple of the guys, like, how can I help you? I know of a guest that you could possibly get this, that, the other, like, just trying to do what I can to help everybody else out as much as possible. So it's all,
That's pretty much what my channel started from, dude. And I'll admit, like, I don't. It's like, so. For example, this is gonna sound really funny to you, being from California, right?
go for
I have no idea what a shad is. I've never seen one because we don't have them here.
it.
It's not
Yeah,
a species of fish that lives in the Northeast.
I'm
So,
not
like,
really interested.
you watch
I don't really
tactical
know herring.
captain. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So, like, they're like, "Oh, you need to use shad colors in the spring because that's what the main forage is," and I'm like, "No, actually, no. I've never seen
No, it's not.
the only species of shad that we even have in Vermont is alewives, and that's because they're invasive and they got dumped into Champlain. That's
Yep.
it. We don't
Yep.
have a shad here. Our forage is perch and bluegill.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
the main
Yep.
forage. They'll eat smelt and they'll eat smaller trout, but that's the thing. And then I started seeing, like, you see all these videos, and the one thing I will say is if I ever get like that, I want my viewers to call me out on it. Is I hated guys going, this is the best reel. You should always use this reel. And then next year they're like, hey, this this is the best brand. No,
Yep.
like,
Yep.
either it is or it isn't. Like, I hate that guys, you can tell what guys are clearly being paid. And I'm not saying like I don't have partners, but like there's a difference between helping a partner grow, helping a partner sell product in a brand that you believe in versus some company throwing you a box of crap
Yep.
and then you proceeding to tell someone that it's the best thing that you've ever used when you've never taken it out of the box that they sent it to you in. That
Exactly.
bugs.
Exactly.
That's actually why I like Zach and John, and like that's why I like those guys, because they don't put stuff in the box until they fish it. They're
Yep.
not gonna they're not gonna be like, oh yeah, we're gonna put this month's box is gonna have some bait that we've never heard of, that we never seen. They ask for a sample of the bait, they fish the bait, they see if the bait actually does what they think it does, and then they promote that company. And that's what the difference for me was. Like, I got sick of learning, because I grew up a trout and salmon fisherman's son. I grew up doing the like trolling deal. Dad had like 20-foot aluminum boat. We used to do king salmon fishing on Lake Ontario. We would go troll for trout. That's what I grew up doing. I didn't know shit about bass fishing.
Huh.
I caught a bass because my dad got a kayak because my mom wanted to exercise. And ultimately, we went out in a kayak, caught a bass at a campground. Matter of fact, the videos that are hitting on my channel this week, those vacation videos, that's the same body of water where my channel started. My brother went out in the kayak, caught like a 2.5 pounder on a MEP spinner, and
Yes.
we were then competing for the rest of the weekend to see who could get the biggest bass. Like, it just became a thing. And then, of
Oh
course, you
yeah,
get addicted
absolutely.
to it. And the next thing you know, you have an entire pegboard wall behind you of baits, and you're talking on the internet about fishing for 3 hours a week. But like, the thing is when I started doing my research, there was really two different types of YouTube. There was guys like Alex Rudd, which I love to follow, because Alex Rudd is like, I'm fishing, and here's the bait I'm using, and here's the fish I caught with the bait, and have a nice day.
Yep.
And then there's the guys that are like, you have to use Berkeley because Berkeley, 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 and Berkeley, 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 and Berkeley, Berkeley. And it's like, dude, I get it. I get it's good. And don't get me wrong. I got a shit ton of Maxat. I got a shit ton of products from just about every company out there. But
Yeah.
you can tell who's drinking the Kool-Aid and who's just promoting stuff that they believe in, that they've caught fish in. And that's what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to get out there and be like, okay, guys, here's the deal. You don't need a freaking Shimano Corrado DC to catch a 5 pound bass. You can catch a 5 pound bass on an Abu Garcia Black Max combo that you got at Walmart for $35.
Yep.
You do
Absolutely.
not have to have specialized fishing rods. They're cool to have. It does make things easier in certain situations. But if you're looking to just have fun fishing, don't stress yourself out with, I can tell you right now, between me and you, simple place, frog will catch you a fish most of the year.
Yep. Yep.
I have a frog in
Absolutely.
my kayak from probably May through October, because I will tell
Oh yeah.
you, don't bite a frog in March in Vermont, because the frogs are hibernating or whatever the hell frogs do when it gets cold. I don't know
Yeah.
what frogs do when it
Yep.
gets cold, but
Yep.
a 6-inch yum dinger. And I notice I didn't say Senko, because I don't necessarily think you need to spend $9 a pack for 10 worms. You can spend
Yep.
$4.99 for 10 worms, or your local small bait painter, or your local small bait guy that makes plastic worms, that you can go buy a 20 pack for half of the cost at a trade show. Like,
Yep.
you don't have to do it the way that I do it and buy. I'm literally demoing another rod on Sunday that I want to buy from FX. Like, you get specialized, but you can do it on a budget. And that's what I hated. Is I hated seeing all these guys that are just like they make it sound like the only way you're going to catch big fish is to use Seagar fluoro and Dobbins rods and Shimano reels, and I'm like, that's not true. Like you can do
And,
it with
yeah, and Megabass. Yep.
yeah, and
Yep.
Mega.
Yeah. You gotta have your Vision 110. Now I say that I have an entire 3,700 box of Vision 110s. Like I am not above it, but
Same.
I can catch. I've caught so many fish on a husky jerk from Rapala for like $7. I'm like, okay. And then some of the jerk baits that I've been getting in my Dark Horse box lately, like Righteous Tackle just made one that was
Yep.
phenomenal, dude. The thing just catches fish. I feel like it's a rearrange, but I'm a rearrange blank. I'm not quite sure. If it's not, it's something very close to it. Either way, Jackal rearrange is a good jerk bait too. But no, yeah, it's first off, Matt Allen, he's from right down the road. He's from like 20 minutes from me. Like that's
Oh,
where
really?
he's from. He doesn't live there anymore. Yeah, but it's 20 minutes from me.
Now, but
That's
yeah,
where that's why he's always Clear Lake Delta, all that stuff. Because I got blessed when I moved up to Northern California, which is not normal California, by the way. I moved
yeah,
up to Northern California. Um, I never fished, dude. I didn't grow up fishing. Like I went fishing a few times. Like I got to do fishing trips, but it was more for the adults. I just got to have a rod and catch a couple fish here and there.
yep.
Um, but I wasn't. We were fishing. I did not come from a fishing family or community of people that really like to go fishing. You know, I had an aunt who was like ate up with fishing, and I never understood why. You know, I came from Southern California where like it is a lot different. There's a lot of riffraff, we'll say, and you know
A little
I
bit
tend to
different society. Yeah,
yeah, I tended to be more riff-raffy. I went to a lot of high schools and a lot of places, a lot of facilities, and I got into skateboarding, and that's really what became my heart and soul for a long time. I got really deep into skateboarding, the sponsorships of the whole nine. Like it was really fun. I got to tour around the U.S. in a van and a couple different times. Like it was awesome. It was awesome. It was a great experience in my life. When I moved up to Northern California, I was still skateboarding and stuff, but I did not know what I had around me until I started fishing. And my first bass was on a little Panther Martin, which is basically a Beps, just
yep,
a little inline spinner, and I caught it. I like right here. I don't know if you can see the trees in the background. Those trees right there. That's a creek. It gets to be about knee, maybe waist deep at the deepest points, but it is loaded for 8 miles with spotted bass. Loaded.
nice.
Like anytime anybody wants to come out here, you're invited anytime you want to come out here. I got an extra room you can sleep in. We'll go walk down to the creek, dude. We just grab ultralights and we just have a blast. If you like BFS, perfect place to do it because I mean it's like using a baitcaster on these things. I mean, there's nothing of real incredible size out of there, but they fight like crazy. It is so fun. So when I got into that, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I have this creek near me, and I started like YouTubing fishing and like trying to figure out fishing because at first I didn't even know what I caught. And somebody in the
Right.
comments was like, "That's a bass." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I want more of these ones." So um, I got into more fishing and I found like Tactical Bass and a few other pages and YouTube spots and stuff. And they're talking about Northern California, Clear Lake, this, that, and that. I'm like, dude, that's like I built a Safeway in Clear Lake. I know right where that is. That's like right down the road. Like, what the heck? And then they're like, oh, the California Delta. I'm like, yeah, I did some bridge work over the Delta. Like, dude, what the heck? Like, I know where that is. Like, I didn't know that I just somehow landed perfectly in the middle of where I needed to be. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Folsom Lake. It's a Highland reservoir. It's deep.
Yep.
It's clear. It's got spots, smallies, largemouth, trout, walleye, crappie, bluegill, you name it. It is 10-minute drive from my front door. Like it is
Yep.
right there. Like I can go throw my kayak in the truck while we're talking. I could be there before I finish this story. And so, well, I talk a lot too. But so landing here and then like watching all this Matt Allen, like we're just using tactical backs as the example right now of him telling me I needed these baits. I started buying all these baits. I started like trying to get into
Yep.
this stuff. Like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, and really getting into it and going and fishing these same spots. And I'm going to tell you, like, I didn't look at the date of the videos by any means. So when
Nope.
it says posted 5 years ago, the fishery is a completely different place now. And you can't go throw a shad colored red eye, Strike King red eye shad and expect to catch a donkey. Like, first off, I don't know the spots that well. Like I don't know every rock and cranny like he. Oh, I got a thumbs up. Rock and cranny like he does.
Yep.
Because he's been fishing it his whole life. He grew up here. Like he grew up in Vacaville down the way, and so he's grown up fishing these fisheries. I'm in my 30s at the time. Now I'm in my 40s, like trying to just figure it all out. So
Yep.
you're not going to throw, even if you use those exact baits. I learned really quick that what these guys say is not necessarily true, but start paying attention to the profile, designs, time of year, and
What
location.
they're doing. Yep. It's
Yes, and
more about
then
what they're doing.
that's
That's what I try to do in my videos. It's the same thing. Like you were saying, I try to educate people.
mhm.
Like you'll never hear me say, well, you will for certain things. Like if it's a specific bait, like for instance, Kayak Easy Shiner and the Pro
Oh yeah,
Blue Shiner. You'll hear me
okay, yeah.
say that the belly weighted hook 1,000 times in the course of a year because I catch fish on it. Ironically, I haven't caught a fish on that in 2 months for some reason this year. But like other than that, I would be like, I was using a crankbait in this scenario and this is how I'm working it. I'm not I don't give a specific brand unless that brand has caught me fish at multiple lakes in
Yep.
different places and for different reasons. Like if I'm recommending a product, it's because I've caught fish with that bait at a minimum of 3 lakes and I was doing XYZ technique that I could identify that it was the bait that caused that to happen. Then I'll be like,
Yes.
absolutely, use this color. This is the bait I was using. I'll talk about it. But otherwise, I'll be like, yeah, I was throwing a square bill on grass. You know what I mean? And that's I will say I have learned a ton from Tactical Bassin. I'm not discounting the fact that they are probably one of the best resources for information, but you
Oh
also
no,
have to
not at all.
remember that, and I'm probably gonna screw myself out of any potential sponsorship about saying this, but there is a direct correlation to what's on sale at Tackle Warehouse and what they're telling you need to buy this month. And
I
just saying, there's a pretty close correlation a lot of the times to all of a sudden
yeah, no, I
what's
can't
on
say
sale.
I haven't noticed that. I can't say I have not noticed that. But what I can say is that when I started looking for bigger picture, I don't want to buy just this one color or this one type of worm. Like I want to know what's good for this season. Tactical
Yep.
Bassin was a really good resource for that. But then I got to cherry pick the information out of it. Okay, he's pushing a lot of these deep divers for this, and he's saying all these ones, and they all have different actions. That's cool. That's great. But I'm not going to go buy all those. I really only need, say, one for the time being until I can actually figure out what I'm doing with it. So
Yep.
why not go get the XPS from Bass Pro or whatever?
Yeah.
So when I started looking big picture wise, like what do I want? What do I want out of this thing? Well, if not out of fishing, but what I want to do with my fishing, like I want to put. There's a consumer term, or not a consumer term, like retail term, I guess you could call it. It's called voting with your dollar.
Yep.
So, because it doesn't matter what you make, people will vote and tell you by voting with their dollar. They could tell you that is the slickest jerkbait they've ever seen. Oh my gosh, that's the best thing. And oh, look at all those colors and those hooks. Oh, that's incredible. But if they're not buying it, they're not necessarily voting for it, dude. They're just fluffing you. They're giving you the double
Yeah.
the double whammy. So uh, I wanted to make sure that when I made a purchase, I voted with my dollar. Like, and I. There's one thing I bet on. I bet on. Oh, my baby's outside. Hi, baby. Um. Oh, hang on a second. She's got ice cream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Um. I wanted to make sure that my dollar counted towards my own economy. So I started
Yep.
trying to find American made baits, and I started trying
Yep.
to do that. And I kept hearing on Tackle Talk, Andrew Hayes, he kept saying Dark Horse Tackle. So I looked it up, and I gave him a follow, and I kind of checked their stuff out, and I started liking like a lot of their stuff. So I was like, I'll try boxing and see what happens. So I went ahead and got a box. Lo and behold, dude, the boxes they sent me were I mean, stuff that I would never have thrown in my wildest dreams. Some of the lures I didn't even know what they were, but I
Yep.
chucked them anyways. And I'll be damned if they did not catch fish. They all caught fish, and I was like, okay, this is sick. Like, and you're right, they throw those baits before they even put them in a box. Now, what has happened over time is they've really curated really well to the season, which is that big picture I was talking about. I want to know what I'm throwing at this time. And sometimes when stuff comes in a box, I never hover strolling or hover shaking minnows. I don't know
Yep.
what it's called. Everybody's got a different name for it. I'm gonna tell you, I've never done it. They threw a rig in the box with some baits attached to it, those Bastrix, Flash Tricks, or whatever.
Yep.
I caught, I bank fish, hover stroll, and caught fish, dude. It was ridiculous. I was like, okay, they really know what they're doing over there. When they curate a box, it is they pay attention to all the details. So
And that's
I
honestly
sort
that's
of,
the biggest thing. It's funny. Every bass fisherman has one of two. Well, actually, I'll say one of three progressions. One, you get the guy like my boy Bear Fishing, who is going to buy the red shad, the black and red yum dinger, and a 6 and 4 inch, and that's it. He's done. He doesn't give a
mhm,
shit about a crankbait. He has no idea what I'm talking about. He has jerk baits and that wacky rig, and he's done. And then you
yep,
get me, who has every freaking color. I literally made a video like 2 years ago about don't chase the rainbow. Don't do what I did. Like, don't go buy 75 colors of worms. Don't go buy, like, you get almost so much tackle that you almost want to just give it away. Like, I'm going to start giving stuff away in giveaways because I have so much
yes,
stuff I'm probably not going to fish. Like, I'm just going to give it away to people because they're probably going to appreciate it. But
yep,
you get, eventually, you learn your style. And that's, I think, more important than buying what you think that what Alex Rudd says you should use, or what Matt Allen says you should use, or what Binya Outdoors says you should use. Like, you like frogs. I know you like frogs because I watch your content. I
oh yeah,
love
yeah,
frogs. I fish grass a lot, and the hollow belly frog is probably the most versatile bait when it comes to grass because I'm not picking seaweed out of it all day long.
yep,
But
yep,
I'm more of a, like, swim jig, like simple moving bait like that. But at the end of the day, what's cool about like Dark Horse, for example, is that you're getting stuff that you can't go buy at Tackle Warehouse. You can't go buy at your local Walmart. And
hmm
that's what's neat about that is you get a technique bait that you may think about trying and you may fall in love with that technique because you got it in the box. But also, I will admit, the coolest thing about it is you catch a fish on it and somebody says, "Hey, dude, you were really killing them. What was that bait on?" It's like, you can't get it unless you either go talk to this small bait painter,
yep,
or you know this guy, or you buy it through Dark Horse. Like, you can't, and that's
yep.
actually cool, especially in tournaments. If you start catching on a bait, no one can even copy you.
No,
And there's a
yeah,
good chance, not that, like, I know eventually I would love to see. I'm not actually pro staff or nothing. With matter of fact, my logo on this channel is just because I emailed Zach and said I need a fourth logo to make my picture look cool. Can I use Dark Horse's logo? I
dude, that's
have no
awesome.
direct affiliation with Dark Horse other than the fact that I was like, I drank with Zach at Bobby's 200 show. And I just
Dude, that
texted
dude,
him and I was like, dude, can I use your logo so I can have four logos on my photo?
yeah,
That's
dude,
why that's
I
there.
love that guy.
Because I like
Yep,
those guys and I want to help them grow. But like, what's
yep.
cool about it is like you get that box, and actually, dude, you probably didn't even realize it, but in my chat earlier, Pete Stoneman, that's Stoneman Lures.
Dude, that's good.
Yeah,
That dude's awesome. I have a
yeah.
wake bait from him. I love it. That guy has got a talent for paint, dude. That guy knows
He's
his
the
stuff.
tournament director at my Slide Nation trip.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
he's
awesome.
here in Vermont. Yeah, yeah. That's who that Pete Stoneman in the chat was. That's Stoneman Lures.
I can't even see the chat. I'm stuck on the
Oh,
StreamYard
gotcha.
screen. I'm
Yeah,
just
so
like,
Pete was
hey,
like literally in the chat the whole time. So like,
oh,
yeah.
nice.
But like what's cool is like eBay, for example, they put stuff in the box. Like, you discover,
Yeah.
like, what's cool is like there's two different worlds of that custom stuff too. There is like the exceedingly expensive stuff, but there's like, you discover all these little bait painters that do something custom or do something cool. And the coolest thing about, like, especially like with dark horse, is that you find a bait painter like Pete, for example. Say you found a old school bandit square bill that you bought at a flea market or you found on Facebook Marketplace, and you catch the shit out of fish on it, and all the
Hmm.
color has been knocked off of this thing, and you want to
Yeah.
fish it again. You can't get that bait. You send a photo to one of these bait painters, guess what? You can get that bait again. You can
Yep.
get these big back. You can bring back these old school rustic colors like that good old boy, that one you got out of Grandpa's tackle box that seems to always work because no one uses it anymore. You can talk to these guys and say, dude, make me this bait. Paint me this. I know guys that literally used to send baits to bait painters to refurbish them. Like they would send baits to have them
Yeah.
touch them up. Like they would send them blanks that they've caught so many fish on they don't want to get rid of the blanks
Yeah. And
and
the bait's still good. It's
paint it.
just the paint. Yeah, dude,
Yep.
and I don't understand why people don't do that more. Like, I talked to a few painters, and they talk about, yeah, I get some repaints, but mostly it's just custom orders. I'm like, I don't understand why you don't get more repaints. Like, I would assume that that would be like your number one form of business is people have these lures that they absolutely can't not live without, and they
Yep.
would be hitting you up like Blake at Dark Corner or Graham from Robusto, Stoneman, Righteous, Yount or Yount, or I don't know how you say it.
Yep.
It's East
Yep.
Coast. Y'all are built different.
Even some of the plastics guys that have, and I will say there is some that a Senko, but there's some plastics guys that have some cool like touches to the shape of their baits, or they do a cool color, like they do a color that you wouldn't think would work. And
Or the
that's what's cool
content of
about
the
like getting a
plastic.
subscription. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, dude. That's a big thing for me. I kind of fall like don't get me wrong, I have yum dingers. But I fall under that category of I feel that a Yumdinger and a Yamamoto have two different sink rates. I'm that guy. I throw them both. I throw every lure that I get on a digital scale, so I know exactly what I'm throwing. I am a
Yep.
weirdo. Like
Yep.
I'm obsessive. I have like this obsessive compulsive type thing, but I don't tap on things three times. But I'm an all or nothing person. So if I'm into it, I'm into it 1000%. And if I'm not into it, you will not hear a thing from me.
That's how I
Yeah. So I like weigh my all my baits. Like I'll pull them out of the package, weigh them, put them right back in the package. Like I am a weirdo. So I've found certain companies that have exactly what I'm looking for in, say, a stick bait. So I make sure that like I
Dude,
go
it's funny that you
to
say that about the
yeah.
sinker. Sorry, my
It,
ADHD just kicked in. But no,
no, no, it's
so
all
it's
good.
funny. I
Let's
was
talk
literally
about this.
fishing in my
Yes.
last tournament video. So I'm dude, and that blows my mind because I thought I was the only person that thinks like that. So my teammate
No.
exclusively uses yum dingers, right? I
Right.
have in my kayak at any given time, I have Senkos, I have yum dingers, I have Berkeley Generals,
Mhm.
I have some from Big Bite Baits, and then I'll have ones that I pour myself. And like you said, what's interesting is I will throw yum dingers if for two reasons. One, if I'm going through a bunch of rats and I'm getting
Mhm.
a bunch of like 12-inch nibbler bites and I don't want to use the $8 a pack baits because I know I'm probably going to go through 3 packs of them before I find anything big. But also, I will, on a calm day where there's not a lot of wind, there's not a lot of current, I will throw yum dingers because they fall slower and they will stay in the strike zone longer. But if there's
Yes.
a little bit of wind, there's a little bit of current, I up to the Berkeley or the Yamamoto because they do fall faster and they create a different. Like I'm using the plastic material. I'm throwing a weightless wacky the whole time. I'm using the same hook every time. I'm using a reaction wacky hook, but I'm changing
Yeah.
out bait to affect the fall rate because there is a difference, and it can be the same color. It can be a solid black worm, but you throw a black yum dinger, you don't get bit on it. You throw a black, and the max scent's a whole nother level because of the scent, but also because they're more
Yeah. Yeah.
matte colored than they are. They don't have that gloss to them. So I will throw
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
turquoise sometimes too because that color I think makes a difference. But just say if they were all the same color, there is situations where I will throw one versus the other because of the
Yep.
fall. So that is a good point. They are not the same fall rate. I will tell you that 100%. They are not the same fall rate.
Absolutely. And okay, so um I want to get back to the fall rate in a second, but really quick point because I have an ADHD too, and you said matte versus shine, so matte versus gloss. There was a crankbait line done by Dark Corner. It's on the Dark Horse website. He gives you the option of the crankbait in the gloss or the crankbait in the
Yeah,
matte. And what I see, I feel especially with craw colors, I feel like a matte gets bit more because when you pull a craw out of water, it loses its shine pretty fast.
yeah,
Fish stay glossy for a while; they got the slime coat. Crawdads don't, and so I feel like the matte colors on like Neds, small finesse jigs, uh, deep diving craw colored crankbaits. I feel like that draws a better bite. It's just because once the water is on the mat, it does have a gloss coat to it, but
yeah.
not as glossy, you know. So I have a feeling that in my heart of hearts, because I fish a lot of clear water, I see a lot more strikes on matte colored low bottom craw imitations than I do on
I will
glossy ones.
I will do that in a tournament. Same thing. I said
Yeah,
if I'm not getting a bite on the glossy, I will pull out. Like I said, and this is a perfect like contradiction of the statement. A Yumdinger is like $4 a pack. Berkeley Maxent are like $9 a pack. But I will
yep.
throw those $9 pack worms when I'm not getting a bite on the shiny bait.
Well,
I've
absolutely.
even taken I've taken Yumdingers and put water
Yeah.
in the bag and let them
Yep.
bloat up a little bit so that they
Mhm.
lose some of their color.
Oh yeah, that's a genius idea. I didn't even think about that. Because I've been trying to figure out because I have like I got some of those what is it? Great Lakes Finesse, those little
Yep,
snack
they're good.
cross.
Their
Have you
stuff's
seen
good too.
those? They're cool, man. They're really cool, and they're perfect for like the little creek right by me. Because the
Yep.
best thing about the creek is I can take my 9-year-old son down there, and we can just go wander around. He can catch crawdads, we
Yeah.
can catch fish, we can just, So I just have a creek section of baits and rods and reels and stuff that we just go. This is just creek
Right.
stuff. We just go mess around in the creek. So those Great Lakes Finesse snack craws just get munched over there. Um, but back to what we were saying on fall rates and sink rates. I love the idea of throwing the yum dinger for rat fish, and I also like the idea of a floating worm. But if I want, or a slower sinking worm, but if I throw the slower sinking worm, I found that Fresh Baits is a good company and a good
Yep.
even
Yep.
price worm that I don't mind throwing a slower sinking worm with a fresh baits. But when it comes to a fast bait, dude, I'm gonna put you on the juice. So there's two brands right now that have sinky like stick baits. Everybody's got stick baits, but their plastic salt content versus salt content is so dead on, like a Yamamoto Senko. It's Cliff Pace came out with his own soft plastics. It's called the Trimble Stick. And then if you
Okay.
want to buy in bulk, very cheap, very cheap, the exact same plastic salt content as the Yamamoto Senko. Go to Bitters. Bitters Baits. You can buy a
Okay.
100 bag of worms for $30 or $35. 100 worms
Wow.
for
Okay.
$35. Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
I have two bulk packs of them at all times, and I always just grab a handful and I throw it in my little those Yak Attack little boxes, the little
Yep.
yeah, I got a couple of those little boxes, and they're just so handy to just have a handful of stuff to throw in there.
Yep.
And I'll throw a handful of them because if I am in a situation where I'm catching a lot of small fish, but I want to keep throwing a worm, I'll just tie one of those on. You know what I'm saying? To save myself a bunch of money.
That's what I will
So
say. The one thing you have to take into consideration is that salt content also as the durability content goes down. The higher the salt, and that's one thing that it pisses me off about a lot of guys that like and it bugs me to the point of like they disparage the small plastic guys for durability. But it's like, dude, if you caught a fish, it did its job. One
yeah,
fish did its job. That's it.
exactly.
Sorry,
Because
but a fish bit the thing that this guy made in his garage. That
right,
it did its job. If you catch two fish, that's a bonus. Like
yeah, I do that all the time. I'll flip the worm around, just throw it back out there.
cut it
But
in half,
no,
use it as a Ned rig.
yeah, oh, dude, I do, dude. I pinch them off and I leave the small ones back in that yak tech box, and I'm like, these are gonna be
Yep.
Neds later on, you know. But no, dude, and the crazy thing is if you really want to disparage the small guy for his plastic tearing, I challenge you to go out there and take one bag of Yamamoto Senkos and fish for 3 days. Go for it. Try it. That is a big company. That is a big brand. Those things tear like nobody's business. But
You,
I have found this is also true in the skateboarding world. The best equipment and the best stuff, well, the best consumable products such as skate shoes or soft plastics tear the fastest.
yep,
They get destroyed the fastest. You have the best feel, they have the best performance, but they're not
yep,
the most durable, you know. But I mean, I don't want to throw, I'd rather throw my money. I'd rather vote with my dollars and vote on an American local business, a small American business, any day of the week. All these brands I'm telling you about, I got them out of a dark horse tackle box. I didn't come up with this on my own. I'm not like super Google guy. I don't have enough time in the day to look up small businesses all over the world and find out what's good.
right.
But oh, hang on one second. Hold on. We got to do a cameo real quick. Hold on one second.
No, you're
We
good.
need a cameo real quick. You have chocolate on your face. That's my daughter Avery. That's my wife Kelly. I know. She wants to come play in the car, but she can't. Sorry, baby. No, no, no. Oh, sorry. Cameo. You know,
But no, yeah,
got to
dude,
do
you're
it.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, take that's the thing that bugs me about it, like, because I hate when they do that. Because I pour my own. Like, I'll tell you, I haven't really bought a lot of worms because I started pouring my own. Now, granted, it's a
Yeah.
Yamamoto Stenko mold from Do It, but it's my own worm. But like,
Dude.
the thing is like, figure out what you like and how you like it and fish it. Who gives a shit what the label says? If it catches
Right.
fish, and that's the thing that I was saying earlier, kind of the same point is like, I will go right in behind my buddy and I can throw. That's the one thing that ADHD and fishing are so synonymous. It's amazing
Oh,
because you cannot
yes.
conquer fishing. You
Nope.
can be really, really good at baseball to the point where there's not much else you can learn. You can become really, really good at football, but our ball adapts to us.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't
Mm-hmm.
become a master. You can be really good at it, but Gerald Swindle, how many tournaments has he actually won? Not very many. He's placed really consistently throughout his whole career. But the fact
Yeah.
is, tinkering and figuring out and dialing in that bait within the bait, the thing that you like. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing you can do for your fishing to catch more fish and be better at fishing is figure out what subcategories you're good at, expand on those categories, and then once you've mastered it and you've gotten to the point where, okay, I know I can catch fish on a jerk bait, a wacky rig, whatever, then start experimenting with other techniques and then expand your knowledge into that technique. Don't go out and try to figure out the bite and start out with, okay, I'm going to throw a jerk bait for 7 seconds, and then I'm going to throw a square bill for 8 seconds, and then I'm going to throw a chatter bait for 10 seconds. Don't do that.
Yes.
Get good at the
Yes.
stuff, catch a few fish, and
Yep.
then, okay, now I've got this mastered. Now I'm going to work on this bait, and now I'm going to work on that bait. And that's actually, again, not trying to sound like a dark horse commercial, but that's where subscription boxes benefit you, because you're going to get a couple crankbaits, a couple plastics, you're going to get some hooks. So, like, you're getting something that is going to maybe make you think about, oh, maybe I should try this jerk bait I got in this box, and then
Mm-hmm.
practice with it. Well, the biggest thing I say in a lot of my videos is, the day you go out and don't catch fish can actually be as beneficial as the day that you caught a 10 pounder. Because if you're not catching fish, screw it. Throw that jerk bait. Practice with it.
Mm-hmm.
Throw the hover stroll and learn how to do it. Because you know what? I'm not catching fish anyways, but I'm already out here.
Exactly.
And that's the
Yes.
thing that I hate is people are always like, "Oh, I'm going to go home because they're not biting." No, don't go home. Pull out that weird square bill you bought at the yard sale that you thought looked cool, and use it today. Because otherwise, it's going
Yep.
to sit in your box for the rest of the year. And then all of a sudden, you may discover your new favorite bait, or you may discover your new favorite technique. Or in the situation like for me, jerk bait was one of those baits. I suck with a jerk bait. Don't have the patience to work that damn bait. But
Mm-hmm.
I will throw it and I will force myself to throw it. And there's certain situations now where I'm like, ooh, this is a jerk bait situation. I should throw it. But it's because I built a little bit of confidence from using it on those days where, like you said, you fish a body of water with clear water, right? You
Yep.
don't throw
Yep.
it as far,
All the time.
crank it down a little bit, and you work it and you go, oh, I like how that looks. Oh,
Yep.
I like how that looks. And then you figure out what looks good to you. Because the thing is about fishing that amazes me the most is me and you could go to a lake with the same rod, the same bait. Everything is identical. The same day. I cast at a tree and I catch a bass and you don't.
Hmm.
Literally, there is such little things, and when you start filming, you realize how much weird little shit that you do that you don't even you instinctually do that you have no idea that you're doing. Like I
Yes.
fish where like I'm working a crankbait and I'm like I don't realize I do that weird pump, or like I
Yep.
don't realize I notice that like when I'm fishing like a moving bait, I will every once in a
Yeah.
while I will lift
Me
my rod.
too.
I don't know why I do it. And a lot of times actually that's kind of going another callback to the beginning of the show, like podcasts. I catch
Uh
more
huh.
fish when I'm listening to a podcast or music or something else and distracting myself. If I'm not listening to something when I'm fishing, I will catch less fish, which has nothing to do with the fishing. It has to do with something about my cadence when I'm zoned out and I'm listening to Bobby bitch about some guy at the boat ramp and I'm laughing. I'm not thinking everything that I'm doing, and then I go on autopilot, and then you'll notice like if you go back and watch the footage, it's like, oh, dude, I thought I was doing a burn retrieve, but I stopped to scratch my neck because a mosquito bit me, and that's when that fish hit. Or
Hmm. Yep.
got to the point where I thought I was fishing a Yumdinger in June bug, and I was fishing a Senko in black and blue. I had changed at some point, grabbed a bait out of the bag, didn't even
Yep.
realize that it was a different brand because sometimes I'll just throw the bait in the next bag that I grab. And then I realized after I thought the whole time I'd caught that 5 pounder on a June bug bait, and it was actually a black blue fleck that I had switched out 20 minutes before that I forgot I swapped. And you
Dude,
catch
yeah,
all
no,
that.
I was gonna say, I totally, I have done, I relate to that 1000%. Like the autopilot when I have, a conversation going on. Like I've literally, like, my headphones have died before when fishing, and then I start fishing again, and I'm like, dude, the bite is dead out here. I just caught 11 fish, but
Yep.
like all of a sudden the bite died because, my distraction went away, and now I'm hyper focusing because ADHD. I'm
Yep.
hyper focusing on what I'm doing, and it's not going into my autopilot where I need to be.
Yep.
And I do the same thing, dude. I fish a bladed jig and a spinnerbait, and even a swim jig. Like I have a weird way I fish all those, to be honest. But I always crack the rod a couple times.
Oh
While I'm
yeah.
pulling back, just a little pump, pop. Even if I don't hit weeds, I'm like pretending that I'm hitting weeds because I can't tell you how many times right after that pop I get smoked. So it's just become like a habit for me to do it. And I found it when I'm reeling crankbaits. When I reel crankbaits, I crank, 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 stop, crank, crank, stop, crank, stop, crank, 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 stop. Like I just give it the second to float. I give it the second to pause.
But if you
Whatever.
try to replicate
Um,
that, you can't do it.
no, you
I
can't.
can't.
You can't when you consciously think about it, you blow it every time. And
Yep.
so sometimes I'll find myself reeling a crankbait, popping like I'm reeling a chatterbait. I'm like, oh, no, no, no. But like, okay,
Yep.
so let's get into this a little bit deeper just because I brought up those three baits. If you have tied on a swim jig, a spinnerbait, and a chatterbait, how do you fish them? Because I fish them, I always throw the swim jig first because it's the quietest and I can
Okay.
get through the same
Yep.
area really quick and I can really find out how junky it is.
Yep.
And then if it's not that junky, the next thing I throw is a spinnerbait because it's a little bit louder. It's got a little bit of flash. It's usually a
Yep.
willow blade. I throw Colorado blades, but only at specific times of the year and specific places and specific times of the day, like dark time. But I'll throw the willow blade. I like the battle baits minigun. It's like my favorite spinnerbait now. Like I can't get enough of it. It's just a finesse spinnerbait, but it's a half ounce. It runs true. It's perfect.
Yep.
And I'll throw that right after the swim jig. And if I'm not getting bit on that, then I'm like, all right, boom, I'll just throw a bladed jig because I feel like that's just like a drum solo coming through the weeds everywhere where, because the fish, they got that
Yep.
lateral line where they feel it. So I feel like it's just a drum solo. And I feel my personal opinion is I feel if I throw that first, chances are I'll spook any chance of getting a bite unless they're on a bladed jig bite. But I
Yep.
wouldn't find that out until I throw my swim jig and my spinner bait. Then I throw
So,
my
and that's
bladed
what's
jig.
funny is so swim jig is always my so swim jig's my search bait.
Mhm.
That's
Oh
my
yeah.
number one search bait. And the
Oh, it's a
reason for
solid
that is I
choice.
can control how depth I can count it down. I know where it's going. I can fish it wherever I want. In my mind, it's finessey enough where it
Yes.
looks natural and it doesn't have a lot of noise to it. Now, what
Yes.
I will say is there is a weird nuance to using a louder bait, like a chatterbait, for example.
Mhm.
Sometimes, if I'm fishing super shallow, I will throw the chatterbait deep, bring it shallow, and then go finesse because that will sometimes draw those fish wondering what the hell was making that noise into the shallow. So sometimes I'll start with a chatterbait, but throw it as deep bomb cast as I can as a beacon
Yes.
to bring
Yep.
those fish in, and then I'll follow it with a swim jig because I'm thinking they're now looking. You know, they heard a
Yep.
noise, they don't know what it was, they didn't see it, but they came to investigate, and now they just see this subtle little thing going by, and they're like, "Bam!"
Dude. Okay, so I have I fully back that thought process. I do something similar. I do it with a buzz bait and a bladed jig. I throw a buzz
Yep,
bait first, and I burn it through there, and I let everybody know who's coming through. Throw it a couple times, and then I'll just slowly roll a chatterbait right behind it, and that's
yep.
yeah. Now I throw a
Now, swim
chatterbait
jig, I will
a
fish a lot of
lot.
times with a jig too. I fish. So what I
Oh
consider my
yeah.
swim jig is actually funny. So the number one most successful swim jig that I throw is actually a booyah pitching jig
Oh yeah. Yeah.
because it's the same shape
Yes.
head, but it's not. It's something about the way the angle of the head is slightly different than it sits a little bit more tipped down because it's made to be pitched and flipped. But what
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
do with a swim jig a lot of times, which is a sneaky little thing, is so you get up to like the edge of a grass mat or a dock or whatever, right? I'll throw the swim jig in, drag it for a couple feet, then swim it back.
Yep.
So I've
Yep.
effectively fished two different techniques in a single cast. So then
Yep.
you get that fall, you get that slow drag for the bottom fish, and then when you reel it, it's gonna come up. Like the thing that people have to understand is you're in a boat. Your
Mhm.
rod is 7 feet long, just going with average, right? You're
Yeah.
probably holding that
Average
rod
male
tip
is
at a
7 feet long.
45
Yeah.
degree angle. You know, we're doing a little
Yeah.
trigonometry here, but
Yeah.
ultimately that bait's not
Yeah.
coming straight through the water column. It's gonna come up
Oh
at
no.
an angle.
Hmm.
So by dragging by letting it slow fall, I'm getting the top, middle, and bottom section. I'm then dragging the bottom for 3 feet, and then I'm covering the rest of the water column back to my boat. So now I've effectively covered every possible depth between me and that target.
Yep.
So if there was a
Yep.
fish in any zone, they've now effectively seen that bait. Now I will say this is the other thing that a lot of people don't, and I actually used to be one of the people that I now don't pick on anymore was the big swim bait guys.
Oh
The
yeah. Yep.
value of a big swim bait can be the drawing power of what the hell was that. So you
Yep.
throw that big swim bait, same concept I was talking about with the chatterbait. You throw that big swim bait, and then you follow it up with like a finesse paddle tail. So they saw this big thing swimming through the water, and they're like, "Who the hell is that?" And they want to see what it is because bats are. We like to pretend like they're the smart species, but they're not. They're
No.
just
No.
curious as hell,
Yeah.
and they're just like, "What is that? It looks alive, and it's not hurting me, so I'm gonna go follow it to see what it's doing." But then if you
Yep.
drop in a Senko after an 8-inch glide bait, they go, "Oh, look, dinner," and they don't
Yep.
they don't have
Every
any
time.
brain power to stop themselves from hitting that bait. So
Yep.
combinations of baits, I think sometimes are more important than fishing a single bait. Like I literally go into tournaments with a plan of I'm gonna throw this bait, buy, then this bait, then that bait, then move. Because
Yep.
then you've covered multiple levels, multiple styles, and that's something that I think when you have the level of ADHD I have and the level of like I was a sports guy, like you were skateboard, like fishing fulfills that competitive edge. But the cool thing about fishing is I don't have to have anybody come with me to compete against. I'm
Yep.
competing against nature.
Yep.
And if I
Yep.
catch a fish, I win. So then it's I won again, and I win again, and I win again. And it's just a matter of okay, now I caught a bigger fish. So now I'm competing against myself, and each time you just learn a little bit more. I think that's probably more important. If you learn anything from a YouTube video, anything from fishing, is learn that you're not going to have a good day every time. I'll tell you right now, the video that hits tomorrow on my channel was 9.5 hours of fishing. You get 15 minutes of video. You don't
Yeah.
catch fish every
Yep.
6 minutes. I'm just not going to
No.
show you 9.5 hours of video because you're not going to watch it. If you guys would
Dude,
watch all 9 hours of my day, I would just not even bother to edit and just send you guys the video. But you're not going to. But the thing
there's a
is God, sorry.
go ahead. I was gonna say there's a guy on YouTube that does that. And I don't know how my algorithm hit it, but like I'll turn on YouTube at night and like be watching something cool or whatever. And so I'm not on my phone, but like on my laptop or something. It's kind of
Yep.
like a TV in the background type idea. And I'll fall asleep to it, whatever. And I wake up in the middle of the night every single time. I don't know how many views this guy's got from me. It drives me nuts because I don't follow him. I'm not subscribed to
Yep.
him, but somehow my algorithm shoots me to this catfish guy who literally does not turn off the camera, and he has like hours and hours and hours of him out in the water trying to catch catfish out of a kayak. Now,
Yep.
I'm not knocking him. Like, that's awesome. And do you, boo boo. And he's got a huge following. I couldn't sit there and watch that. I mean, I
Yep.
could totally sleep with it on, but I could never sit there and watch it, dude. Like, oh, yeah.
And that's the
So,
biggest thing
if,
about fishing in general is like I said, it's not it's individualized. Like you can literally
mhm.
go fish. I implore anybody. Matter of fact, do this because we'll again call back. Sign up for the Jigs and Bigs multi-species tournament and
Yes.
go fish and see where you end up. Because what you'll learn about yourself is that you're either competitive or you're not, and you'll learn that like you'll end up specializing in certain areas and you'll learn how to do your game better. And when you compete against other people is really where you can measure how good you are. Because I'll tell you, everybody's a hero at their home lake.
Oh,
Everyone's a
yeah.
hero at their home lake. And when you then go compete against other people and you go, oh, so my 18-inch average isn't really that great in the scheme. Like
Yep.
that's one thing I learned about doing tournaments. I went and did MAKB. I used to fish with Sean. Sean was the tournament director. And it was
Okay. Yeah.
literally I went there and I placed fourth in my first tournament, and then I got my face beat in 3 tournaments in a row. I blanked 2 out of 6 tournaments, like zero fish, not even a pike. And like then it came down to okay, that's make or break. And that's I think the difference between fishing is the cool thing about fishing is fishing for some people is I do it when I go camping 3 times a year. For some people,
Mhm.
it's I take a Senko, I go to the bank, I drink a 6 pack, and if I get a couple bites, that's cool. Then you got guys like Bobby, who's like, I am trying to catch 75 different species today because I think it's funny. But then you get
Yeah.
guys like me and you that are like literally talking about the plastisol content of the worms because we want to niche down so far that
Yes.
I can literally tell you that. And the thing is, I have a couple of lakes that I've gotten to the point where I get bored with fishing them.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it sounds like a brag. And I hate that this sounds like this, but I have a lake that I could go to tomorrow morning. And there is a section of the lake that if they're not there, they're here. Like I've gotten to the point where I'm not going to catch 5 pounders or 8 pounders or whatever, but I probably blank there once a year, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yep.
to the point where now it becomes an adventure, and then it becomes okay. Now I want to go fish a brand new place and catch a fish, and now I want to see if I can spend the whole day using a jerk bait and catch a fish. And then you start doing these like sub challenges over and over and over again, and you just eventually get to the point where you're just like constantly creating new challenges. And then that when you add content creation to it, it just creates a whole other rabbit hole, and then you spend an hour and 44 minutes on the internet talking to some dude from California that you met through Instagram. I mean, that's where the world
Yeah.
gets you to.
Yeah. Dude, so I I about the you and me talking about worms and baits and the differences in
Yep.
how we all get into this or how we all approach this. Um, I approach everything as detail oriented as possible because my ADHD. You're talking about you can never
Yep.
master bass fishing. You will never master bass
Yep.
fishing. I don't plan on mastering bass fishing. There's so
Can't.
many subtle nuances and variables that go on underwater with the air temperature, pressure, moon phase, suns, clouds,
Yep.
uh, wind,
Yep.
you name it. There's so many different things that will change the same body of water in just a day alone.
Yep.
Um, that those are the variables that all I can do is equate into the or add into the equation. So I need the variables that I bring to the table to be completely like inside my wheelhouse. Like I need to know everything about what I have with me. So I'm like,
Yep.
I'm going to war. You know what I'm saying? And as for approaching the how you approach fishing tournament, the Jigs and Bigs multi-species tournament, jump in it. I just talked to Matt Souders the other day on the Catch podcast about being new to tournament angling, and it is so different. If you've never been in a tournament, please jump into the multi-species because you'll catch something, I swear. Um, but there's something about catching a fish in a tournament versus catching a fish on a Tuesday. It
It's
means
different.
something, you know. There's something that it just means a little bit more, and it just the feeling and sensation of accomplishing just that alone made tournament fishing just turned me on to tournament fishing.
Yep.
You know,
My
now
my
mind you, my
teammate
very
Bear Fishing's like that. He basically said to me, so we had fished a bunch together before, right?
yeah, yeah,
And we started doing tournaments, and he goes, "Dude, I don't get it." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Any other time we fished together, you'd catch 18s, 19s, 4 pounders, 5 pounders." He's like, "I never saw you show emotion." He's like, "You catch a 14-inch bass in a tournament." And he's like, "You're fist pumping, you're
yeah.
cheering." He's like, "You're going like it's weird. Like I don't know how to describe it unless you participate in it. There's no way to quantify it."
Dude, it means something. And for me, being new to tournaments, and this is another thing, if you guys are interested in doing tournaments, like I have a huge community around me that I don't know.
Right.
And the only way I'm going to get to know them is get out there and get on the water with them. And trust me, I've tried this because I'm a weirdo and I'm really not afraid to like approach people via walking up to them or on the internet. And gone, I've seen dudes that are fishing spots that I fish all the time. Hey, bro, what's up, man? My name's Dave. I fish there all the time. Like, let's get together and drop a line sometime and go fishing. And I think they just think I'm a weirdo. So they either don't respond or like, yeah, maybe sometime. And then just, kind of leave me on red after that, which is nice of them to even respond. But like, I know that's weird. But if I saw them at the same place in a tournament, that's a conversation. And the
Yep.
next thing you know, you guys are like, oh, how are you approaching it? Which way are you going? I'm going this way. Well, why? Oh, I'm going to throw these, this, and this. Oh, I'm going to do this, this, this. All right, cool. Well, if they're biting here, here's my number. Let me know, or whatever. If I find them, give me your number. I'll let you know what's working for me over here. If you can't buy it over there, you're more than welcome. And like people in kayak tournaments are so like open armed and welcoming. Like they're so
Yep.
cool. It's not like big bass boat tournaments. Like you talk to the guy next to you in line, you talk to a couple guys at the boat ramp, but for the most part, if you're sharing water with a big boat, if two big boats are sharing water, it's somebody wants to go to the bank for sure. But in kayak fishing, y'all can share the water all day. It's super cool. No one minds. I'm like, this is so rad. Just the community people. And so that's why I got into tournaments was to get to know my community around me. And my first tournament, dude, I skunked. I put a stick on my measuring board because I caught a stick. And I just put that on my measuring board. I submitted it. I mean, I didn't win anything, but I did it anyways because fuck it,
You should have
Sorry,
seen the
sorry, screw
sandwich I sent
it.
to Bobby one day.
Well, they have actually in the Yakabas because that's the tournament series out here is the Yakabas tournaments.
Yep.
Dude, the guy who runs it, James and Sean, those dudes are super cool. James is the homie. He's super rad. He also runs the Kayak City over here. He's awesome. But anyways, point being is so they have this thing where you could submit the weirdest thing you find out there. And I almost won with my stick, but somebody submitted a chicken bone or something, so I lost,
Yep.
but
That's
either
funny.
way.
Yeah, I actually wanted to piss Sean off, so I took a picture of the 6-inch turkey sandwich that I was put it on my
That's
catch board. I actually sent it to Bobby first. I'm like, how pissed would Sean be if I submitted this to the multi-species tournament in the NE5? I was like, I want to put this in the NE5 because it just says any species, and I'm like, it's a turkey fish. But yeah, But no, dude, it's funny
What's
that
up?
you say that because like Sunday, I'm fishing with one of the guys from my Slay Nation trail. He's been like, and like we have a group chat, and like the guys will be like, just one of the guys messaged and said, actually, I fished against him in New Hampshire too. I got into that New
Mhm.
Hampshire tournament because he had said he was going down there, and I was like, yeah, I'll come down and fish it too. And like
Yeah.
I'm with another guy from the Slay Nation trail on Sunday. I'm like, yeah, let's just go fish. Like that's what's different, I think, about the kayak community versus the bass boat community is like at the end of the tournament, it's not like everybody's pissed off and slamming their trunk lockers and heading home. Like everybody's kind of like, oh, dude, that was rough. It's like, oh, what did
Yeah.
you go on? One of the
Yep.
coolest things, dude, as you'll appreciate this. So one of the tournament guys put a I didn't have service at the time. He put a photo up in the group chat and said, "Is this anybody's bait?" He had a wacky rig hook with a freaking Berkeley General on it and still had braid on it that I had lost the first fish of the tournament, broke me off, and he caught the fish
Oh.
with my bait in its mouth and my braid still attached to it. And it ended up
Oh.
being a 16 and a half, and we would have probably been in the money further and actually placed better in the tournament if we had had that fish, because that would have culled our smallest fish. So the first fish I
Oh.
caught, I know for a fact was a 16 because he caught it and entered it, and he had my freaking bait. He actually told me he's going to use that in the next tournament just to spite me. And that's
That's
what the
awesome.
kayak community is that I almost can guarantee you he's going to show it to me at the ramp tied onto his spinning rod. And he's going to go fish that wacky rig.
Take a magnifying glass and just melt it to his hole, you know?
Yo, dude, it's the
No,
craziest. Like, but that stuff like happens all the time.
that's awesome. That's so cool. I love that. See, and that's the community that like really drew me in. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so cool. Now, so you fish braid on your worms and stuff, or do you fish
I
exclusively
fish.
braid or?
So yeah. So I'm actually very. It's ironic that I'm very unparticular on the line I use, considering I pro staff for Reaction Tackle that makes all these lines. But
So
uh,
okay, yeah, go ahead. I got a comment for that in a minute, but go ahead. Go ahead.
so
Continue.
I fish braid. Every one of my reels except for three is braid.
Hmm.
So I have three casting reels that are straight fluoro. And that is only because, and this isn't a brand loyalty thing, it is just how I cast thing. For some reason, Lose is the only reel that I can cast straight fluorocarbon on and not spend $20 every time I go fishing.
Hmm.
I don't know why, but it's just how I cast their spools, the speed. I don't know what it is. Something about their reels. But I used to just run straight braid on all my reels, and then I would run a leader, like a 16, 18, 20-inch leader if I needed that invisibleness. And
Yeah.
then I stopped doing that because I started getting more specialized. So like I have specific rods that have like my medium heavy moderate, for example, my cranking rod. I have fluoro on that because I'm usually using square bills and I want the finesse application of that. My
Yeah.
finesse reel, my spinning reel, I run High-vis braid to like a 7 foot fluoro leader. But I'm
Yeah.
running like a 10 pound like High-vis. Like
Oh
it's
wow.
super light
Real
braid.
light.
Yeah, it's super
Okay.
light.
Yeah.
It's crazy because it's actually funny because I've caught some of the all the fish I've caught that were over 20 inches were on that finesse setup. I haven't caught
Yep.
any big fish on my power 40 pound, 50 pound, 70 pound braid setups. And one of the fish I caught, matter of fact, in Bobby's that the what the not the scavenger hunt, but the big like the
Yeah. Yeah.
tournament. Dude, the
Yeah.
first two fish I caught were freaking 19s, which didn't count for that tournament. And the
Yeah.
first one I caught, dude, was in pads so buried that I was bushwhacking to get the thing out. Like every time I would raise my rod tip up, you'd see the tops of pads fly off.
Oh. Yep.
Cutting pads with 9 pound, 10 pound braid, panicking the whole time because I'm like, I want to at least get this fish in. It's pretty big. But I'm using a
Yeah.
6'6" spinning rod, 6'6" medium fast spinning rod with 10 pound braid. And I use 12 pound fluoro as my leader, because
Oh
I
yeah.
found, and this is like what we were talking about earlier, where like the spec stuff.
Hmm.
So I have had more problems with 10-pound mono and fluoro breaking than, and when you go to 12, I don't know why. There is something about 10-pound test that breaks for me 9 out of 10 times, whereas a 12-pound won't under the same load.
Yep.
I don't know why that matters. It shouldn't matter. But for some reason, I've had problems with 10-pound every, and I'm not talking like, big game. I'm not talking like cheap line. I'm buying
No, yeah.
Cigar and, like high end. I mean, I even bought
Yep.
like Tatsu at one point and it didn't
Yep.
matter. It broke. But yet,
Yep.
when I buy that 12-pound, it's different. Why? I don't know.
Dude, I literally, it's like we're the same person, just different places because I have the same issue with 10-pound. I've thrown Seagar, I've thrown Sunline, I've thrown 10-pound shooter. That's like
Yep.
$30 a spool. Like, it is not cheap. And dude, for some random reason, the 10 snaps. Now I have 8-pound sniper that works just fine, but the 10-pound snaps. So I got
Yep.
12-pound because I don't trust 8-pound when I'm going out to fish for big fish because
Right.
I don't trust my knowledge of drag, and I also don't trust the fish because I think they're smart enough to run into cover, and 8-pound's just not going to do it.
Yep.
Um, so I keep 12-pound, dude, and I tie 12-pound on mine. In fact, you're gonna laugh at me. You are making my buddy Andy so happy right now. Like I'm going to tell him to watch this and his heart will be full because he is such a proponent. He throws like 10 or 15-pound braid with like a light little floral leader on like almost
Yep.
all of his stuff, even his bait casters. He's like, oh, yeah, it's cool. And he's the finesse guy, but he catches all the fish, like all the big ones. I'm like, of course you do. Of course you do, And he's so happy to hear that you're pulling fish on a light line and yeah,
See, I'm
light rod. But
technical like that
he's,
though too. Is what I will do, which is why I'm selling. So that reason I have these is sitting here is I just took photos of
yeah,
them to sell them on
okay,
marketplace. But
yeah.
I will literally carry. So like, say I'm running. I've gotten to the point where I'm like customizing. So like, I
Mhm.
will, if I'm fishing a tournament that I know has clear water, then I add an extra floral reel.
Yep.
But I also will have a braid reel in my bag, and if I
Yes.
find that it doesn't matter, I'll swap it. So I
Hmm.
actually will carry backup reels with the opposite line, or sometimes an extra reel with the same line in case I blow it up. I can swap it in a tournament and not have to, because there's nothing worse than getting a bird's nest in a tournament, because
Yeah.
you have that internal debate. Do I take the time to fix this, or is this rod just dead to me for the rest of the tournament?
Yep. Yep.
You just
So
have to have that thing. So I will literally bring an extra reel so I can cut the line, throw that reel in my kayak, swap the reel, and then go back to fishing.
yep. See, I do the same thing, but I have, well, I don't do the same thing. I have an extra reel with spooled, and it's usually braid because I have one rod that I can swap over to my top water rod. So if
Yep.
I need a popper rod, I can swap over my either my crankbait or my bladed jig rod, and those are both great top water rods. So it's just a matter of swapping the spool, and I'm good to go. So that's why I keep the extra spool of braid. But I throw braid on frogs. I throw a braid when I'm punching in the delta only. If or when it's heavy, heavy cheese mat vegetation, I'll throw a braid. But other than that, like I'm a fluoro guy. Only reason being is because that's so much clear water most of the time,
Yep.
and I can produce on it. I know the line tension. I know how much I need to lift for. It's rare that I break off. I say that now, and I'm just going to break off for the next month. I'm going to cry. But like,
Yep.
for the most part, I'm pretty good with all that. But I throw braid and and I throw braid on my spinning rods, and I have always been very particular about the braids that I throw.
Yep.
Very particular. Like I said, like I'm weighing stuff. Like I'm looking at it. I got a little micrometer where I can sit there and like do the diameters of the
You're
line.
checking your
I'm a
diameters. Yep.
I'm that guy. I'm that guy because
Yep.
I just want to know. Like I also find it really interesting just because construction for so long. Like I just find it really is interesting.
Yep.
So like I'm looking at like the Daiwa J braid, 8J braid, and like all these different braids I've gone through, and I settled on the suffix for a long time because it's stout and it doesn't absorb as much water.
Yep.
So I'm like
Yep.
suffix is cool. Um, but I was
It's
in
also
Columbus,
really
Ohio.
expensive.
I was in Columbus, and Bobby gave us all a spool of this reaction tackle braid. Right here, try this out, try this out, try this out. It's just
Yep.
30-pound braid, nothing crazy. I put that micrometer on it, dude, because I'm like, this is not 30 pounds. I put the micrometer on it. It is so tiny. I'm like, okay, something's weird about this line. So I tried it, loved it, dude. Like that
Yep.
stuff casts like a dream. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
And then they just came out with this black option, the no fade braid black, dude. I don't know what is on that line. It does not sink. It does not soak. Like when I'm reeling it in, I'm getting soaked because the braid is not soaking up any water. It's just flinging it on me like fluorocarbon does. Like it is so good. I'm like, dude, this stuff is awesome. I went ham. I got the 40 pound for my top water and my drop shot rod. I got a 25 pound for my creek rod. I got 80 pound and 65 pound for my frog rods. Like I went in, dude. Like their braid is different. Like I've thrown all my other braid away. Like this stuff, it really works.
You should
So tell your
you
buddy
should
at
see
Reaction
the
Tackle,
man.
they're doing good stuff over there.
You should see
They're
the
doing
box
really
I
good
got
stuff.
downstairs.
Oh no, it's just yeah,
I got a shipping case of braid downstairs.
yeah.
Reaction sent me
No.
50 spools to give away.
Oh wow, dude,
Yeah.
that stuff.
So
They
I
do good braid, bro. They do.
it
They
is
do it
good, dude.
well.
And the price,
And it's
the thing about it's the price.
yeah, I was gonna say, and it's half the price of all the other braids, dude. Like all the braid that I trust is half the price. I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, I'll take that all day. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
so.
crazy. Now I will say their lower tier braid, like the basic stuff, it's
Hmm.
gonna leave color on your eyes. It's going to be loud, and some people care about that. I don't give a shit about that. It's definitely more coarse. It's not waxed, but in my
Yeah.
opinion, and I think that's actually something to take into consideration. J braid, I hate it, and the reason why I hate it is because it's so waxy that it actually
Mhm.
bird's nests more for me. I think the
Really?
coarseness of the braid allows it to stay on the spool and not free spin because it's
Hmm.
got texture against itself, so it
Yeah.
has resistance, so it can't freely rub on your and blow up. I've
Yeah.
had a
Oh,
problem
like
with
micro Velcro or something.
heavily slick lines because it has that stickiness. That being said, it also does cast a little less distance because it has that resistance going through the eyes and going through everything else. But what's crazy, so the braid thing, one thing I will tell you that is a little sneaky trick if you do use like high-vis braid on your spinning rails is if you don't want to use a leader, like say you're fishing heavy cover, take a
Yeah.
Sharpie, color the last 16 inches before your hook with a black Sharpie.
Oh, I use the all straight black. That's all I use. I don't do any high vis. I
Gotcha.
got binoculars on my face for a reason. I'm already blind as it
Gotcha.
is, so it doesn't matter if it's high vis or if it's black. I'm probably not going to see it. So I'm
See,
just like,
that's what I do with the
whatever.
high vis is I catch a lot of fish because of the high vis because I see it like change
See,
direction and all that. So what I'll
yep.
do is I'll literally take and Sharpie the last
Yeah.
18 inches like a leader so that the fish sees a break between the bright yellow and the thing and they don't really notice that. And it is a little
Yep.
trick, but that's something that the high vis thing, I will not fish a spinning rod without it because I've gotten so many fish where I didn't feel the bite, even on the most sensitive of rods, but I've seen my line suddenly going the opposite way of the current, or I've seen my line
Yep.
straighten out when I didn't impart any action on it. And I'm like, something hit that.
Yep. Yep.
And that's
Like that
something
bounce.
that was
Yeah.
weird. Like you look at it and you go, that was not. That's the other thing about recording. I was going to say this earlier. Is the other thing I've noticed, and I don't want to like pretend like I'm some sort of savant or something, but like you ever notice when you watch your own footage that you actually hook set before the fish bites, like you stop and actually like almost sense the bite coming. Because I've noticed like in my videos, you watch me and I'm doing this right. I'm reeling, and you see me go like
Yes.
I tip my head to the side, like there's a. It's almost like you could sense the fish is there, like and it's before you see the rod tip bounce. Like you know when that fish hit because I can see it in my back cam, so I can actually
Oh
see
my
the
gosh.
rod bend and everything. And I'm like, and you see me go, and then I tip my head and swing, and it's like I don't know why I do that or what instinctually makes me do that.
Oh no, dude, I will totally go down this rabbit hole with you because I love this topic and nobody talks about it. I say it's a topic, like everybody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. It's a topic in my own head. I'm about to sound a little crazy, but just bear with me and tell me if you can relate. The energy, the fishing line doesn't matter the quality. When you're fishing, I feel like my fishing line is an energy transference. So when I'm
Yep.
confident in the bait that I'm throwing, that goes through the line to the lure. I will catch fish. I don't know why that is, but I just feel that way is my reality. And then in turn, I notice I'm like, dude, something weird is off. And then boom, bite. Like
Yep.
I'm like, oh, there it is. Like the energy transfers of that fish coming right back at me. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel
Yep.
like I know I probably sound like a weird psycho. I swear I'm
No,
not. But
I
this
know
is
what you
just a
mean.
little rabbit hole in my brain that it's like almost an emotional or mental sensation that I have. It's like some sense where you're just like, oh, there's a fish over here. Boom, and you're just like, yes,
Yep.
like, yeah. So, and same thing with
The
the
instinctual stuff
lures.
comes
Like,
from that. I say to my
okay,
buddy, I
yeah,
said it actually in that video, my tournament video is coming up. So I literally
yeah,
said, we have to fish this dock. I can smell a fish. And it's like a joke that I have with him. But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like something is stopping me from moving on until I fish this area. And like 3 out of 4 tournaments I've done that where and I always joke and I always make the comment of like I can smell a fish here or something. And literally as I'm saying, dude, hold on, I've got a fish right here. I smell a fish. I hear him going, giant, giant, hold on, giant. Like he's literally hooking the fish as I'm sitting there going, I smell a fish. Like, and I say that, dude,
Yes,
I've said that. And if you go back and watch like a bunch of my videos, I will say, I don't think in a lot of cases, the color, the performance of the bait, I don't think that matters as much as your confidence. I think the confidence transmits down the line. I really do. And I think a lot of
yes,
it, again, kind of comes back to that whole podcast autopilot thing. Like you work the bait just slightly differently when you're confident. You have more, you're doing something different that when you're confident in something that you're not doing when you're not confident in it. And
yes,
it just
yes.
it creates that reaction, that fish. But like it is so weird when you edit, because when you edit, I go back and I watch and I always, the way I edit is this cheat code I learned is I stop my video after I hold the fish up. Or if I'm talking, I'll start a talking point with this and then I start
Okay, yeah,
talking. The reason I do that is because then when I go back to edit my clips, I just watch the first 15 seconds and the last 30 seconds of every clip. I'm
yep,
recording for 8 straight hours the whole time I'm out there, but I literally start it. I don't see me counting. I grab the slider, I drop it at the last 15 seconds, and if I'm going with a fish, then I save that clip and I know I'm going to be using that one, and then I just keep moving. And I drag the rest of them to a folder and I leave them in there until the video's done and I delete the folder. But
so
I'll go back
go
and
ahead.
edit and I'll watch the video and it's always like weird because I'm always like just zoned out, and then all of a sudden you see me go, like I don't know why my head freaking turns, but it's like
Yeah,
my
just
head
like,
tilts to the side, or you see my facial expression change, or like if I'm chewing gum, I'll stop chewing, or something changes in my face. And if you watch
yep,
the back camera, you'll see the rod like perfectly fine, and then you'll see it go, and then hook set. And it's like
yep.
I almost like tracked that like disturbance in the forest somehow, and was like, okay, something's about to happen, and then boom.
I feel like okay, so another rabbit hole. I feel like we as humans in part of this world, we are one with nature and somehow have dulled those senses over time. Because
Yep.
I'll tell you this, you can touch any spider. I don't know if you guys got these out there, but you can touch any spider web we want. But you know when you touch a black widow's web, you don't have to see the spider to know it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're just like, oh, no, 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 that's a bad one. You know, like
Yep.
and that comes from our instinctual self-preservation, where we are connected with the nature around us, even though our senses have been dulled because of, whatever conspiracy you want to go down. Um, I feel like the same thing comes when you are out there and you are fishing, and you are fishing on what's like an autopilot, like where you're taking that mental distraction that we've dulled down over the years, and the headphones and the music and stuff like that dulls all that out to where your body is now just one with the surroundings around you. You are in full autopilot. You have confidence in what you're doing, and you can almost sense it when it's going to happen, or you know what you're going to be throwing and you know how you're
Yep.
going to be catching fish. Like that's well, I can't say you know how you're going to be catching fish, but you know when that lure goes in the water, you're like, yeah, this one feels
It's
right. This one's going to work.
And you
Yeah.
realize it more when you fish with someone else. Like you have that buddy. Like I had like the first tournament we ever did was on my home lake, which was like a huge
Mhm.
bonus for me. Like, but it was
Oh
we
yeah.
were catching fish and I was using a swim jig for most of the fish I caught. And this is like a May tournament. We put 94 inches up in May in Vermont. Like that's a big
That's
bag for a Vermont
that's a
bag. You
big
know, it's a
bag, dude.
and that's a spawn bag. So that not only was it 94 inches, but they were all bloated up with eggs and everything else. So they were all like
Yes.
4+ pounds. So like, but the thing is, like, I caught a couple like small ones, and then I like went out and I started pedaling around, and he's like, "Why are we here?" And we're in the middle of an access because the way this lake works is literally most of the fish live in this one bay right by the ramp, and everybody skips this bay because it's like 4 feet of water with submergent milfoil, and there is pads there, but in May they're not there yet because winter kills
No.
it all because it all freezes and all the
Yep.
grass dies because in a lot of places it freezes solid to the bottom and it kills all the
Oh wow.
grass. But I have fished there so much that I know where the grass edge is in July, and I'm fishing a grass edge that actually isn't there yet. So
Oh,
I'm
it's
riding
brand new
around in what
sprouting.
looks
Yeah.
like the middle of the lake. But right now, if you go to that lake where I was fishing in the middle of the lake, there's pads all the way to the shoreline because I
Yes.
know where it is. But like my buddy will be like, "Why are we here?" And I'm like, "Wait, hold on. I need to work a swim jig through here. I need to work a crankbait through here, and then I'll hook a fish." And he's like, "I don't get it." And I'm like, "It's because I knew there should be something. I don't have any." And that's actually why, like the whole, and I'm not even gonna get into it, but the whole forward-facing sonar debate, it wouldn't do me any good. I don't even use
Yeah.
my down imaging. I really don't. Like I use my down imaging to tell me how deep it is, and if I see
Mhm.
a rock pile or something, I might stop and fish it. But other than
Yeah.
that, the only thing I will say I use it for fish is if I'm in a deeper lake and I happen to notice that all the marks are at 5 feet. I might throw a 3 to 5 diving square bill because I know I can hit that depth and keep it there. Or if
Yeah.
I see that they're all tight to the bottom, I might drag a jig or something. But I'm not like going out targeting specific fish at a specific depth all day. It's just not how I fish. But the instinctual stuff is crazy to me because he just got a kayak like a year and a half ago, so he's still kind
Hmm.
of learning it. But it's weird, like when you like you're like I need to tie on a black lipless. Why do
Right
I
now.
feel like I need to do that? I've literally tied on baits that I've opened baits in my kayak from the package that I've never thrown before because I'm like this particular situation calls for this weird orange craw that I have no idea
Yep.
why I even bought it in the first place, but it's here and I feel like I need to throw it. Like it's just
Yep.
weird how, like you said, you have this mental process that happens, and you just and that's I think why people with ADHD stick with fishing because with video games you're good at it and then you get sick of it and then it's dead to you. You're good at a sport and then eventually you get to the point where either for me sports was I beat the shit out of my body. I have a torn ACL on my right knee. I have a screwed up ankle on my left knee and sciatica. So sports aren't happening for me. It's not worth hobbling around at work for the rest of the week so I can go play sports at the weekend. I can
Yep.
fish, and don't get me wrong, I've come home pretty sore from fishing too because I'm carpal tunnel and elbow and shit like that. But it's not the
Oh
same
yeah. Yeah.
problem. But
No.
fishing satisfies that competitive nature, that competitive need to compete, and I can't master it because, like you said, fish a lake 7 days a week. They're not going to eat a
Yeah.
senko 7 days a week. They're not going to eat a
No.
square bill 7 days a week. The barometric pressure could change a point one, and all of a sudden they're
Yeah.
biting like
Yep.
and that's the thing. You can get as deep or not deep as you want. You can
Yeah.
study the map and you can study the depth chart and you can say stuff like I say stuff to my teammate all the time that blows his mind because I'll be like, well, dude, so there's a front coming in on Wednesday. The tournament's on Sunday. It's supposed to rain on Saturday. The barometric pressure is probably going to be dropping. They might be holding up to cover because, and like I'll go into all these details. And he's like, what does that mean? And I'm like, it means we're going to fish a Senko on trees. But we would have probably come to that conclusion regardless of the forecast.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
mind, I need all that data because if it's not working, and the other thing I think people, the one thing I will say that people do too much of is they think that bass give a shit about what your plans are.
Oh
And
yeah.
what I mean by
Yeah.
that is I always joke about it and I say the bass didn't read the manual. So they don't know that a jerkbait is supposed to be a cold water bait. They don't know that a chatterbait is supposed to be used when it's windy. They don't know that a rattle square bill versus a silent square bill is supposed to be used in certain condition. If you're confident in that bait, throw the freaking bait because the bass
Yep.
doesn't give a shit about what our preconceived notions of what they're supposed to eat in what situation. I don't know
Yep.
how many times
And
I've thrown the wrong bait and been throwing the wrong bait in the wrong situation for years and been told by people, dude, why are you throwing that bait? And I'm like, because it catches
yep.
fish. And they're like, but why? It's like, why? Because the 12 other people that came through were told they're not supposed to throw a lipless when it's slick, calm, and 80-degree temperatures with no sun, with no clouds. And I did. So the fish is like, oh, this must be natural because everybody else is throwing a Senko and that hurts my face. So this is not going to hurt my face. I'm going to eat this.
Yeah. That one tastes like steel. I want to try this one
Yeah.
instead. No,
Yeah.
dude. Hey, question. How many good fish have you caught on a bad cast?
Oh, that.
I
So
love. I was gonna say
that
I've like
that
I
hurts
did this with
me.
my buddy once. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it hurts me because the tournament that I did in New Hampshire, my
Yeah.
camera up. I casted a square bill,
Yeah.
winged it out. My
Yep.
camera wouldn't come on. I was talking about the fish I just lost on a wacky rig. Threw a square bill, imparted zero action. Set the rod in my rod holder because my mic wouldn't connect to my camera. And the
Yes.
fucking smallmouth top watered the fucking square bill. And that's the kind of stuff that I have actually, like you said, I've purposely been trying to skip a dock and miss the dock entirely and caught a fish.
Yes, yes, that's exactly. Dude, I've done that with my buddy, and I was like fishing this one spot. I'm like, oh man, they're all like right over here, catching fish. And then like one bad cast, wind caught it, oh, way over there. Boom! I mean, literally, like hit it the moment moment the lure hit the surface, the fish just swallowed it. Like somehow it just randomly got there, and so like the fish ate it, and like I I want to be like genuine, at all times. But at that point, I thought it was so cool that I wanted to be cool. So he's all, dude, we were fishing over here. What'd you cast over there for? I'm all, because that's where that fish was, and
Yeah, I can
I knew he
sense
was
it.
there.
Yep.
I
Dude, you know
totally
what's
could
funny
not.
too?
It was just a bad cast, and I totally nailed it. And I was like super happy about it. It was just a bad cast, but it's happened a few times where I've just made a bad cast, and then sure enough, I get the biggest fish that I've caught all day.
Yeah,
I was like,
I call it blind. I
all
call it
right.
blind casting.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So I'll do it
yeah,
on purpose. Like I will be casting to a bank, right? Looking at a bank, you got a dock, a rock, a grass patch, and a lily pad. I'll turn around and just cast deep for no reason.
yep,
Just straight. I call it a blind cast. I'll just turn around and just let it fly, and every once in a while, it works. The other thing that I
yep.
also learned is a little trick that I've learned that I don't know why it happens, but I've learned some things about like I think I've kind of got it figured out a little bit is the bass can see out of the water. And you don't think about that. Mentally, people don't realize that they can see the sky, they can see what's above them. So
Uh-huh.
I've casted Senkos and had fish jump where the Senko was and miss it. And I wasn't
Hmm.
trying to hit a top water. They saw it going over their head and they tried to hit it. So I actually, when it's super clear water, will skip a bait even in wide open water
Wide open water. I do it all the time. It's clear water. That's a
because
clear water. Shh, that's a clear water secret.
yeah,
Shh.
it's like a finesse technique. It's like a technique in itself. Is I even though I'm planning on casting blind casting, like I said, out deep, I'll still skip.
Mhm.
And the reason I do
Yep.
that is because they see that blah, 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 and they'll follow it. So even if they weren't where the bait ended up, they see these dots on the water and they'll
Mhm.
follow and then see the bait fall and lash out at it. And it's something
Yep.
that I've noticed even when I'm casting onto like pads, where technically the skipping would have zero relevance because it's actually more harmful than good because it's likely to just get hung up in the pads because you're trying to go across the top of them. And
Yep.
that's little stuff. And then you learn little weird things like the other thing I'll do a lot of times is like with a Senko, like a wacky rig Senko, is I will burn it across the top of the pads and then let it drop down the front.
Yep. Yep.
Because what that does is it plinks and plunks all those pads, and the fish are like, "What the hell is going on up there?" They
Yep.
follow it, and then it falls down the front of that pad, and they're like, "Oh, food." And it's
Hmm.
stuff like that. It's the cool little geeky stuff like that that you learn that like when you explain it to someone who doesn't fish, they go, "Why would you take a bait that's not meant to be on the top of the water, rip it across the top of the water, and then just let it fall?" And I'm like, "Because it works. I don't know why it works, but it works."
You know, dude, speaking of this, real quick, little left turn. My son proposed a question to me when we had just started fish. I just started fishing. I only been fishing a year, and I did not know how to answer him for 3 years. He said, "Dad, why are all the fish eating the worms? Do worms fall from the trees in the skies sometimes?" And I said, "You know, I I I
I've
don't
asked the
know. I
same
mean,
question. Yep.
yeah, like I don't know how to answer that, dude. Now, mind you, I understand that it is like represents a stick bait represents the ridge of a back or a bluegill long ways. Like there's a bunch of different references for what it could possibly represent, even though it's made out of a pin. I don't know. Point being
Yep.
is like it can represent a lot. It is a very effective bait, but I did not know how to explain basically what you're talking about. The subtle thing that we do because we know it works, but we don't know why. But you're
Yep.
explaining it like it makes perfect sense to drag soft plastic across the top of lily pads because it's like those tom tom drums right above their head. They're just
Yep.
listening to this thing go by, and then all of a sudden, French fries are falling right in their face. Of course, they're going to eat it. Like that's
Yep.
awesome. See,
And if you, the more you study, if you really want to get good at bass fishing, and it sounds really weird, but learn, talk to a biologist. Talk to Shan, the aquatic
yes,
biologist. Give you his number.
yes,
That's smart, but like if you actually look up bass biology, one, you're
yeah,
gonna give bass a lot less credit because we humanize the shit out of a fish that does not deserve the level of
yeah,
respect for their brain power that we give them. Because
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
bass, simply put, is a math equation. A bass's entire
yep,
life is a math equation. It is,
yep,
do I have to exert more energy than I'm going to get to eat this thing in front of me? And
right,
this time of year, perfect example, your weather temperature, all that stuff that you just gave us about today's weather. The
yeah,
fact is, not only is the temperature warmer and those bass don't have eyelids, that's another thing to think about. Bass don't have eyelids. Why are bass
yep,
undercover? Well, think about this, and this is a humanizing
yep,
thing, but what do you do when it's hot? You're going to find shade. Bass are doing the same thing, but they're not doing
yep,
it because they're hot. They're doing it because they can't close their eyes. It's bright.
yep,
They want to see what they're
yep,
doing. They want to hide. They want to blend in so they can eat something. And at the end of the day, you have to take into account sometimes a bass is not eating your bait. They don't have hands. They're just getting
yeah.
the thing
There's
out of their face. They're doing
yep,
this.
yep,
That's one thing. That's where like the yum dinger thing. I will throw yum dingers under docks
hmm
because they fall so freaking
they take
slow
so long.
that
Yep,
that bass is like, get out of my freaking face, and they
yep,
put it in their mouth. And you again
yep,
with High-vis, I see that tick and swing on them. It's like sometimes you literally are not catching a fish because they're hungry. You're catching a fish because you pissed it off.
yeah. It's the reaction bite idea. Now, here's the thing: is like not only like we're kind of humanizing it by pissing it off because necessarily they're a predator, and like
Yeah,
I haven't really talked to biologists about this. I don't know if everybody's really talked about the kill bite, but 90% of the times it's not pissed off. It's either threatened or it
yeah,
sees something that is in its space that needs to go. That's it. So it
yeah,
will just kill bite real quick. Now there's the reaction like, oh crap, I gotta, it's in my face. Ah, bite it because they don't have hands to
yeah,
swat away nothing. But I feel like if you ever notice, like the biggest bass has the best cover, right? It's the deepest. It's the one back there all the way. Why are all the little bass not back there? It's not because he's hungry, and it's not because they would make him mad. It's because that's a threat to his little hunting area. So he will attack them. He will kill bite them just to get them, like bluegill and spawning beds. They don't eat the bluegill because they're hungry. They kill them because they're coming close to they're a threat. They're coming close to their eggs, you know?
Exactly.
So there's a kill bite that I believe is
That's also
really
why they group
effective.
together. That's why you find if you find 18, you probably are going to find another 18 in a similar area. You're probably not going to find a
Yep.
20, and you're definitely not going to find a 12.
Hang on one second.
It's just how
Lost audio.
they school.
I lost audio.
They
Hold on.
literally
Get up.
will school, by size.
There we go. Sorry, I lost
So
audio for a second.
no,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
probably going to wrap this up in a minute, anyways. But dude, the thing is, that's why I love fishing. Though, is you watch like bass will hit. That's one thing that I had to check myself on. Is I used to be like, well, my bass would never eat a 16-inch worm. They will if you put it in the right possession and work it right. You have to remember the biggest tip I can give anybody that's trying to catch a fish is if you're throwing something that looks like it's alive, and like you were saying, it's not presenting a risk. You need to activate the fight and not the flight in the bass.
Yes.
If you
Yep.
activate the fight, they will lash out and hit it. If you
Mm-hmm.
activate the flight, they're going to run. But at the end of the day, that's the difference is you have to think about the fact that I've got to put something in their face and give them the opportunity to eat it. It doesn't really matter what it is. A lot of the
Yes.
time, I
Yes.
think probably 70% of the fish you catch are just shit luck that they happen to be there. Now, that being said, 137-degree weather, and the only thing that can provide shade on the whole body of water is a 7-foot long dock, yeah, there's going to be a bass under because
Yeah.
he's got nowhere else to be. He's going to live
Yeah.
there. Are you going to
Yeah.
catch that bass? Not necessarily. But that's really what you get the details of. You find those spots that those fish are going to be, throw a bait that may or may not work, and then that's where you start to dial in those patterns. And the biggest thing I think that people don't do is they don't do like what me and you do. And they go, okay, so Tuesday's supposed to be raining, Wednesday's supposed to be cloudy. I'm fishing on Friday with a north wind. Well, every time those three things happen, I usually catch fish on Senkos on pads. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
difference between your weekend, I'm just going to drink a 6-pack on the shoreline guy, and the guy who literally spends 5 days a week reprogramming exactly how I'm going to fish on Saturday morning at 4 a.m. is that I've got that in my head. And not only do I have that in my head, I know what lake I'm going to because that lake is always producing in that situation with that bait at that time of year, with that barometric pressure, with this rod.
Yes.
And
Yes.
probably none
Yes.
of that matters. But like you said, I have confidence in that specifically working.
Yep.
And that's why I do
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like we said, confidence transitions down the line for sure. But also I look at it as just to kind of take your point and run with it a little bit. Um, that whole preparation opportunity makes success or what I don't even know how the saying goes. Like they're fish, dude. They are
Yeah.
predators. Like
Yep.
what are they doing in this situation? You can go back to, I don't know if you keep a log. I don't necessarily keep a log. I know a lot of other people keep a log. Um, but I do take note every time I'm fishing them. Like you said in the very
To
beginning,
be
sometimes you're,
That's my
yeah,
log.
okay. There you go. Yeah.
I don't delete a lot of my footage, so I don't necessarily I do document some stuff, and I actually a lot of times in the wintertime will go back and like chart some of the fish catches and stuff like that. Because when I
Mhm.
label my videos, like what you see is does the swim jig really work in my title? Well, my video name is Hortonia Lake 725 morning session. So
Yep.
like I can go back and I have like a video journal. But no, you're right. It is the preparation is honestly time on the water.
Yep.
The more time on
Yep.
the water you have in every possible condition gives you that database to be able to know, oh yeah, the last time this situation happened, this bait
Yeah, yeah,
works, so maybe this is the bait I should use.
exactly. And I was having this conversation. I think it might have been with Bobby. I don't remember. I know I had this conversation with my buddy Andy a few times. I can sit here and listen to all fishing podcasts for the rest of my life and watch every fishing YouTube and everything. But if I don't set foot in the water and make a cast, I don't have the proper mechanics to make it work. I can have all the information in the world. So like this is kind of counterintuitive to our point, but not really because I'm going somewhere with it. I could have all the preparation in the world and all the knowledge that I need. I can know the water temperature and what they do and where they go and what day it is and what time it is and this, that, and the other. I can know all that stuff, but I don't have the proper body mechanics because I'm not out there making that presentation. So I could go out there and I could be like, I know they're going to eat a wacky worm or whatever on this. And I go to bomb out a wacky worm and it goes about 30 feet too high and hits the water cannonballs and they just split. My whole day is shot, even though I knew everything I needed to know. Time
Yep.
on the water, learning the mechanics of your gear, and dude, uh, just going out and like I will. I don't know. Question: do you force feed your fish? Do you ever force like you get new lures and you need to go get it? You want to go catch fish on so bad you just go throw them until you do.
So, yes, for a few reasons. One, um, there is times where, like for rods too, like I want
Oh
to
yeah,
catch a
yeah,
fish on that rod. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah. Oh yeah.
I was fishing a the hell was it when I got my FX, the one I just got actually. It's their carbon series, so it's their lower tiered rod. I just got it that day, like the day before. I'd rigged it up and I wanted to catch it, and I bought that rod to be a swim jig rod. So not only was I using that rod exclusively, I was using the bait that I bought that rod for exclusively for most of the day before I caught a fish on it because I'm like, I want to get one. There's two reasons for that though. One, it's your brain and you almost want to like it's like a weird like competitive nature thing. But also for me, sometimes it's a content thing because I'm like I want to make a video about like frogging, for example. To
Yeah.
be honest, one of the best contents you can put on YouTube is a top water blow up.
Oh yeah.
Any
Yeah.
fisherman sees a blow up in a video and now they're hooked for the rest of the video because they want to see that boil. Like so I sometimes will force feed a frog bite because I'm like I want to get that ball and I will be like sore because
Yes.
throwing a frog so much because I want to get a freaking frog bite or like a football jig, and it's just because I want to feel home run hook set. I want to be able to like really just hit them so hard that which is funny because my teammate picks on me about my hook set. Dude, I hit myself with a fish the other day.
Yep.
I hit
Yep.
that thing so hard, and it was like a 6-inch bass. I hit that thing so hard it hit me in the chest because I just reeled down and I joke with my teammate and he's like, "Why do you do that?" Is it because I've lost fish because I failed to hook them properly? Now, don't get me wrong, I have a medium moderate treble hook rod that I do think about before I set the hook. But if it is a
Yeah.
single hook, not a treble hook, my entire goal when I hook that fish is I want its fry to have a concussion when they're born.
Yeah.
Like
Yes, exactly.
I'm hitting that
Yep.
thing so hard that it's not going to bite another bait for a week because it doesn't know where it is.
Yeah.
Just my mentality. Like it's just
I
how I
love
am.
it. I love it. I feel the same way. And I noticed this talking about looking at our footage and our logs. I'm just going to jump points completely because all I was going with was you need to be out on the water more than you need to
Yeah.
be on the
Yep.
computer. But
Absolutely.
uh, no, I have a I have a fairly decent hook set. I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, and be like, dude, I'm awesome. Like I'm this phenomenal phenom fisherman guy. I'm not. I suck like everybody else, but I got a pretty decent hook set. I have practiced it. I love looking at the rod when it's loaded up. Like I'll set the hook and then I'll just look back at the rod for a second because we all love a good loaded rod. It's great.
Yep.
But when I got into kayak fishing, everything had to change. And here's
Yep.
why. If you go back
Yep.
and you look at that frog video, I have the most 5-year old looking hook set I think I've ever had in my life because when I set the hook, it pulls the boat towards the fish, and I'm not used to
Yep.
that yet, especially standing. I'm totally not used to that. So my hook sets are just like, you know, it just looks so terrible because I don't want to throw. I'm super afraid to throw myself off the boat, you know,
Yep.
but I don't want to lose the fish at the same time. So I look like the most uncoordinated baby giraffe you've ever seen, trying to like rip like the frog video episode, like trying to rip these fish out of the cover that they're under, and I just
Yep.
am having the hardest time doing it. Like, and I look terrible. I know I have a good hook set, but on video,
Those are the
on
funnest
record,
catches, though.
my
I
hook
had a
set does
couple
not look
catches
good.
last year. I had a couple catches last year where I actually casted to a dock.
Hmm.
My kayak, so dock's here. I was coming at the dock. The wind picked up and it pushed my kayak like this.
Yeah.
So my line's to my right, and I had to do
Mhm.
like a hook set
Yeah. Yes.
because the fish is behind me and I can't like go up because up doesn't do anything. And I get a lot of
Yep.
hook sets where you'll see me like reel, and then all of a sudden you'll see me like do that because
Yes.
I was
Yes.
like horizontal, and it's like I had no choice. I'm like, I've got to pull the rod, and this is the only direction that makes sense with what I'm currently doing.
Yes.
So
I
the other
love
thing that's
it.
really funny to me is like I will do what I will do a lot of times is I
Hmm.
will actually like hook set, and I will admit sometimes I'm also with content creation. I've learned a cheat code, and I'll use casts as a transition. So I will
Hmm.
make the most showboaty Hollywood exaggeration of a because I'm trying to use that rod coming across the screen to transition to the next video. So I will do some of those while I'm fishing. But the problem is I always almost always catch a freaking fish when I do that. So then it looks like I'm trying to be some freaking showboat because I'll literally be like, I'll reel it, I'll pop the rod up, I'll check the bait, I'll pick the grass out of it, and then I'll like home run Babe Ruth
I
fucking
love it.
swing because I'm trying to use the rod coming across the screen as my like transition to the next thing because I plan on doing like a talking point or I'm planning on doing my outro or something. So I'll do that,
Yes.
and then that will be the one that cast to catch I want to put in because it's like, oh, but I'll like a lot of times I actually had a fish in my Sunapee tournament that I don't know if you ever had this. I don't know if you got you probably don't have you may have pickerel, but do you have like pike or pickerel or anything like that?
I'm sure we do, but I haven't ran into them at all. So.
So one thing about those fish is they're very normal for them to hit the bait right before the kayak. Like you're in the last three pumps and they smash it, right? I had a bass do that at a tournament. It ended up being a 19 3/4 inch bass. Dude, I was working a square bill over top of grass, bringing it back, and I actually got to the point where you see it. I gave up and I was just burning it to get it back so I
Mhm.
could cast it. And that thing hit my old town. So you can get a perspective. My old town 10.5, that fish was level with the tank well of my kayak when he hit the bait. You see the water boil under my bait because that fish hit it. I was in 6 inches of water, so he couldn't even like he had to have come from under my kayak, clear water, so I didn't even see him. I actually hit him so late that when I reeled down to set the hook, the freaking crankbait hit the tip of my rod. And now I'm fighting a fish. Credit to FX for building a strong enough rod. I'm literally fighting that fish with the freaking square bill pinned against the eye of my rod. So you see me like literally go, ooh, like I couldn't go any further because that was the end of the rod. I
Yeah,
had to
just
hit
all,
my cast button because I was so afraid I was going to break the rod. I couldn't loosen my drag because I had so much tension on that rod. It would have
yeah.
blown my reel up. So I literally had to cast button, thumb my spool to net the fish because he
Oh,
was that close. I couldn't get the fish high enough because he was literally pinned to the tip of the rod.
dude, that's so scary too, because you're like, all right, I'm gonna release this, but hopefully I got enough
Yeah,
thumb
I hope
tension
I
to
don't
like,
just blow this thing up.
yeah.
And it's a tournament too. So it's like I can see I mean, I know the fish is big because I could
Yep.
grab him. If I had a boat, I could have reached and lipped it.
And again, if it was a Tuesday, it would have just been a fun story. But when you're in a tournament, there's so much more
Oh,
on,
dude,
like, so much more about that fish catch. Like, oh yeah,
the
that's
part you don't see in the video is the probably eight words in a row that would have sounded like Morse code because I would have had to have censored the entire conversation. So what you
Yes.
see in the video is me going, what just like literally I set the measuring board down and you hear me go, why was that fish there?
Yeah.
But what you don't hear is, holy fucking shit, what the fuck? Why was that fish there?
It's all.
Yeah,
That's
it would have been
awesome.
like the whole thing would have been censored.
Okay, so have you tried this yet? I've tried it because I like the way it looks on video. I can't successfully do it because I'm not that good yet. Have you set the hook into your camera? Like, have you set the hook where your rod bends into your like GoPro or
Um, yes,
so?
but it's hard to do because of the way it like. So
Well,
the way I have the camera set up, one of them. I'll show you. So see this nice little umbrella that I bought for my camera.
yeah,
See how derpy it looks.
that's cool though.
That's because I set my. I actually did it, but I wasn't trying to. That's why it's flat right here.
Oh, no, no, no. I mean like,
I
okay,
literally,
so
well, that's what I was trying to accomplish, and I smacked my camera. So I tried not to do it because I'm more likely to smash my equipment trying to get that angle.
yeah, see,
My
that's
camera's
I have the panfish or the mount back here
yeah,
because most of the time I set over my left shoulder because I fish
yeah,
off the right side of my boat most of the time. Because
yeah,
the way the rod bend, like we were talking about, everybody loves a rod bend. Honestly, if
yeah,
somebody just did a series of hook sets in the video, don't even show me the fish, just show me like 50 hook sets. I'd watch it all day because I love watching that.
I
And
do that.
when they
Honestly.
yeah, to do it because that would be so sick. Like, just do it as a short because everybody loves a hook set. Everybody loves seeing a rod bend, and when the rod bends into a wide angle lens, it makes it
Yeah,
look like it's almost in a perfect U form. And you're like,
yeah,
dude, that looks so
sweet,
sick.
dude.
What rod are they using? Like, holy cow! And then you find out it's the same rod that you have, but they
Yeah,
got it in the camera angle right. So I've tried. I'm being honest. I'll pull my own covers. Like, I'm not too cool for school. I have actually tried to set it to make a cool video. Never has happened successfully yet, but I've really tried.
so what I do a lot is my back camera is like what I call my hook set cam. That's why it's where it is because
Yeah.
that back camera, my camera is back left and I fish to my left. So I'm always kind of like over that side. So you do see like that rod, bend.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like I said, there's little things you do with YouTube that like people wouldn't appreciate. That's why it's fun fishing with content guys. Like that's why a lot
Yeah.
of the guys I fish with are content guys because they understand why I just took 10 minutes out of our day to film the goose that was swimming around the rock that I'm next to, or like, they're like, "Well, dude, why are you bothering to run a camera down this bank? Who cares?" But
Look
it's
how beautiful
because
it
I
is.
know in my mind I'm building. I'm at the point now where I'm building the video. I was actually saying that to
Yep.
Bobby. I was like, dude, when we go fishing, like I'm gonna get some like a bunch of B-roll, so don't be surprised if I'm
Yeah.
like just like filming weird shit like you driving the boat or the boat taking off. And he goes, why? And I'm like, well, because I'm at the point now where like when I get to a certain point of the day, I want to make my goal is to make a video now more than catch a fish. It sounds really weird, but that's what it is. But I will get to halfway through the day and I'm like, okay, I have like two fish catches that are like piddly fish. How do I make a
Mhm.
video? So then I start thinking like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go catch a bunch of 12 inchers, and like you said, I'm gonna catch a bunch of 12 inchers. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make elaborate, overdone hook sets,
Yes.
and then literally I'll do montages, and I do them a lot. And I'm sure people probably are sick of them. But what you'll get is you'll get a music background, no audio. Sometimes I'll leave the audio in. Actually, sometimes it is cool when you hear like the grunt
The
when
braid,
you
the
set the hook
braid.
or the
Yeah.
braid. But
Yeah.
I will literally have a bunch of things where literally the entire video is this. It's like this is the fish. It'll be like hook set, hook set. Like you don't get
Yes.
any of the reeling. I just
Dude,
do hook set, hold the fish up, and it's all a bunch of
solid.
little fish. But it's
Yeah.
like still like it's just cool to see like the rapid fire hook sets and sometimes the hook set doesn't even go with the fish. That's another YouTube trick that I should tell you guys. But sometimes the hook set for that fish was not actually the fish that I caught. The fish I caught was 6 inches and it went flying behind my kayak
Yeah.
because I did a
Yeah.
hook set with a top water and that fish became a missile, and I needed to get him back in the water because he was going to die, and I didn't have time to show him on the camera. But you'll
Yep.
do stuff like that, and that's what YouTube world you start doing. Like I'm building the video on my head.
Well, yeah, dude. So I'm gonna say this. It may be an unpopular opinion, but I could care less. When it comes to content creation, B-roll is king.
Yep.
B-roll is king because, especially when it comes to fishing, we've all caught fish. We all catch fish.
Yep.
Show me the story. B-roll becomes king.
That's, so what
Give me
I
a
started
story.
doing is I realized is Alex Rudd, buddy of mine, Mikey Balls. I can text Mikey Balls tomorrow. I can call him right now. Like I have friends in the fishing industry that make videos. But
Yeah,
what I realized is I'm invested in Alex Rudd. I'm invested in Mikey Balls. I'm not really invested in Mikey Balls fishing in a boat.
yeah, yeah,
Anyone can go make a video about catching bass. Anyone can do that. What
yeah,
I've learned to do is this stuff is get people to invest in my personality and let me tell a story the way I want to tell a story. And that's why I show shit like I broke my rod, I show it. I bird's nest a reel, I show it. I don't try to make myself look like this perfect professional angler because if you want to watch that, go watch Bassmasters. If you want to
yeah.
watch an idiot that geeks out at the fact that the loon next to me has the baby loon riding on its back,
That's cool though.
and I'm sitting there
Yes.
trying to get a video of it. I actually cock blocked the turtle. I'm going to end the video, but I want to tell this story, and then we'll
Yeah.
do it. I
Uh,
cock blocked a snapping turtle one day.
from what?
So I was in my bass boat, and I had no idea that this is how they mate. So I was in my bass boat, and I saw a fucking turtle floating at a weird angle. And keep in mind, the lake I'm fishing, these are like manhole cover size snapping turtles. These aren't little.
Okay.
These are
Yeah.
like big
Yeah.
boys, like
Okay.
Michelangelo or Donatello. Like they're big boys, right?
Yeah.
So I come up on it, and my content brain's going, get my phone out. I'm gonna film this thing. This is a fucking cool snapping turtle. Maybe he's hurt. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm gonna get beat. I'm gonna get rescue a turtle. I don't know what's going on. So I get
Yeah.
up to it. I'm like, this is so freaking cool. And I'm zooming, and I'm like, oh, there's two of them. My brain never registered that they were trying to make baby turtles.
Yep.
So I get close to them, and I'm getting closer and closer, and I'm in my bass boat, and I don't have like spot lock, and I have a shitty trolling motor on my bass boat. So like
Hmm.
I'm like circling them, and then the female disengages and leaves, and that male was fucking pissed to the point where he tried to get on my boat.
Oh.
He literally locked his claws on the back of my boat, and I was doing
Yo.
donuts trying to get away from this freaking turtle that was trying to come basically murder me now because I basically cock blocked this turtle. And that's the stuff that I love to make because honestly, like I said, anybody can catch a 5-pound bass even by accident, but you can't cock block a turtle on purpose.
No.
I
Yeah.
almost
That's
caught a
it.
loon in that same lake. I literally had a
That's
video here where I almost caught a loon. I casted a bait, the bait hit the water, and then two loon head pops up out of the water. And loons are the dumbest bird. I know why they're an endangered species because they are so
yeah.
unintelligent. And
Yeah.
as soon as I saw its head go back under the water, you hear me going, "No loon, no loon," and I'm like
Yeah.
burning the 7-speed reel for a 10-speed ratio, burning it. Well, you can't see it on the video, but literally, I got to the last like 20 feet and I yanked and you ripped this bait out of the water because I could see the loon hot on the tail of this. And then the loon
Dang, dude.
popped its head out of the water next to my kayak. And that's the shit that I love to make. And that's the story.
Oh,
And that's the whole thing is you start to like, the longer you do this, if you're going to be successful at it, you realize that you need to tell a story. You need to have something that people want to see. Because if you show 8 fish catches and go, thanks guys for watching, no one's gonna.
yeah.
Eventually, you're gonna fizzle out. You're gonna
They
get a
call
few
it.
people that like your stuff, but they're not gonna watch it.
Yeah, they call it content for a reason. Have
Yep.
content. Fish catching's fish catching. Now, The only real content video I've ever been able to make is me just blowing it. Like I have a whole just episode, or not episode, just a whole little video of me, all the dumb stuff that happens to me on the boat because I'm new, like all the new guy stuff. Like I'm ripping guides off my rods and stuff trying to cast.
People want to see me fail. One of the
Yeah,
best watched
dude.
videos, and content makes no sense either. YouTube algorithm is the most aggravating thing you've ever seen in your life. The
Oh yeah.
most watched video that I have on my channel, most watched, is 12 seconds. It's a short, and I was ice fishing with my buddy from Canada, and he drilled a hole and goes, "That's good ice." 28,000 views. And
Dude,
it's
that's
literally 12 seconds of him going, "That's good ice." Like, there's no reason that video shouldn't be watched. But
yeah, but
I got like 300 subscribers and 28,000 views from a video that was 12 seconds long. That's what I mean. Like, you never know. That's why I've learned to just put it out there. If I have a weird banter, you like my last video that I put out when I was fishing my buddy, like I caught a fish and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a real bass." And then I'm like, "He's a real boy." And then I like threw the
yeah.
fish back. And it's shit like that where in my head I do it and I do it in person and I used to cut that stuff and now I just let my ADD run free and just
That's
put it in because people
that's the
love it.
best stuff. Yeah, that's the best stuff. That's the most relatable type stuff ever. And that's what I feel like a lot of content is missing is the relatability, you know?
Yep.
So that little like it's a real boy, like
Yep.
that would have me laughing, dude. I'd be like, this is solid. And I would send it out to like three or four people, like real fast, like that's, and then I feel like that's what's lacking in the content. I appreciate the fish catches, I appreciate the information, and I appreciate all that stuff because I will always watch it. But give me something that's relatable. Give me a story, give me jokes, give me, your buddy taking a leak on the side, trying to take a leak off the side of his boat, and you walk up and just kind of tap his kayak a little bit, like that kind of stuff. That's great. I love that. Like me and Andy had an idea when once he got his Hobie, we were gonna dress up like pirates and go from one end of a pond
Yep.
and just slowly like come towards each other and like try and battle and knock
Yep.
each other off each other's kayaks. Like we thought that'd be funny. Might still do it, but we haven't done it yet. So, but
The short I
that's
just
the
put
kind
out.
of stuff I want to see. Yeah, it's just
The
yeah,
short I
it's just
just put
something.
out. My buddy was like, he literally comes up behind me and he goes, "Hey, you lock your drive in?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude. If you don't lock your drive, you're gonna break your blades, right?" No
Yeah.
shit. 10 minutes later, from 30 yards away, you hear, "Dude, you're not gonna believe what just happened." And I turned around and went, "You broke your fucking drive, didn't you?" And he goes, "I broke my fucking drive." And that's why you run a camera all day. Because
Yep, all day.
that got
Yep.
me 10,000 views. A lot of people commented. A lot of people loved that video. And it was something that I probably wouldn't have included 2 years ago.
Dude, so
But it was
good.
just like him rolling up behind me. And I literally put like his YouTube channel is Bear Fishing. And I just titled it at Bear Fishing Doesn't Listen. And I just submitted it. Because I'm like, dude, I just told you you need to do this, and you broke your rod. Like some of the funniest stuff. Like one day, the funniest thing I've did with him, we were pre-fishing for that tournament. I casted his bait off of his rod. Dude, we were sitting parallel to each other. We were talking about like what we were gonna do next and how we were gonna fish that lake for the tournament. And I take my bait and I kind of roll cast and just
Oh,
perfectly. His rod was sitting at an angle, so I was sitting like this, and he was sitting like this, and I roll cast it and literally perfectly broke his bait at the knot. My
oh,
bait survived the cast, and I reeled it back. But the thing is, I casted. We heard thwack, and you see his line just doing that like wispy
oh.
in the wind.
Yes,
And then me and
yes.
him, and he has a camera too, so we both have each other on camera, and we're both looking at each other going, like, just one of those moments where like, what just fucking happened?
Yes,
And then we just both
yes.
start laughing. And those are the things that I've started to just include because it's like people like
It's
people want to
gold.
be. I want you to feel like when I make a video that you're sitting in the back of my kayak and you're just hanging out with me for the day.
Yes,
And if I can make that feeling in that video, then I feel like I've made a good video. And that's kind of how
dude.
I roll.
gold. Yeah, like one thing that's funny to me, it may not be funny to anybody else, but I put it on like the Instagram the other day or whatever. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm an asshole. We've been talking for 3 hours. Do you have
Oh no,
kids?
you're good. Uh,
Do you-
kind of. I'm almost an empty nester at this point. So long story short, my wife has a son that's 15. I
okay.
have a 14-year-old. My 14-year-old lives with his mom during the week, and I get him on the weekends. But he has a
Yeah.
girlfriend now, or boyfriend, or I'm not going to go into the politics of that.
He's got a
But either
he's
way,
got
has a
somebody. Yeah.
significant other,
Yeah.
and he doesn't. And I hated as a kid with growing up with people who had like separated parents. There was
Hmm.
always this like weird thing where like they would be like, "Oh, dude, you should come over this weekend," and the kid would be
Hmm.
like, "Oh, I can't. I gotta go to my dad's." And then like
Yeah.
you would ask them what they did with their dad, and they're like, "Oh, my dad went fishing, and I just stayed home and watched TV." And I'm like,
Yeah.
I always had this like thing where I have this open communication with my son. I'm like, dude, here's the deal. I'm probably going fishing this weekend. If you want to come over, we can go to dinner. We can do something after, but there's not a lot going on. Or if you want to go do something because he goes to school there, so like his
Yeah. Yeah.
friends are all in that town. So like
Yeah.
I don't make him come if it's my day. Like I just so
Yeah.
a lot of the times this time of year when he's not in school, he just doesn't come. So like he's
Yeah. He
gone.
does. Yeah.
Her son decided he wanted to go live with his father because he's never really had that relationship with his dad because his
Okay.
dad was gone early. So he
Yeah.
decided that he wanted to just go live with his dad up in Buffalo.
All
So
right.
we were like, cool, yeah, if you want to, we're not going to stand in the way of you building that relationship. So I'm
No.
essentially an empty nester at 38 because my kids are never here,
Perfect. That's cool.
which
That's
makes me
awesome.
more irresponsible and more like a 12-year-old boy because I stay up late, play video games, and talk on the. It's actually funny. I'll give you this one too. My ADHD brain. So my
Yeah.
mom told me growing up, and you're in the same age group as me, so you can appreciate this probably more
Oh
than
yeah.
some of the younger viewers. My
Yeah.
mom, I played video games. I was a computer nerd, and I talk a lot. My mom used to say words to me like, "You're never gonna get anywhere in life playing video games and talking to your friends on the internet." I now work for a software company that makes banking software that most of our software is basically remote software that allows people to use their phones to sign documents and everything. And I do YouTube where I spend 2 hours and 56 minutes talking on the internet with my friends. So everything that I was told was never going to get me anywhere in life is what I do for a hobby now or a
Yep.
living.
Yep. Hey, dude, they also told us that we weren't going to be able to walk around with calculators in our pockets. But, look at us now.
That is true.
Yeah. Dude, so the only reason I say that I was asking because I have a similar situation. I get my son every other weekend, and so I had him this last weekend, and he's like, "Yeah, let's take the kayaks out." I was like, "Cool." We went by Kayak City. He got like a little Railblazer wheel kit. He's got a little sit-in kayak right here. I
Oh,
decked
that's
him out
cool.
and gave
Yeah.
him a little kayak cushion. That's my daughter's. He actually has
Kayak.
a flag one, but that's my daughter's
I
leg
get
rest.
my second kayak cushion this weekend for the
Dude.
backrest.
Yep.
I'm doubling up now.
Dude, I upgraded to the Bertha and I'm not going back. It's ridiculous. But so anyway, so he wanted to take the kayak out, new stuff for the kayak. He wanted to go take it out and he wanted to go kayak fishing. I was like, cool, let's go. And he's still new, like very new to kayaks, like trying to figure it all out. And so when we got in the water and he's like kind of playing around, he still has a hard time turning and figuring out his kayak. And I was like, dude, there's a bunch of ducks. He's all, Dad, let's chase the ducks. I'm all, you know what? No, you go chase those ducks. And I made a video. I was like, you want to teach your kid how to learn how to turn and control his kayak better? Tell him to go catch a duck. And he was
Yep.
literally paddling around trying to catch a duck. Well, 10 minutes ago or 10 minutes prior, he was like trying to
He's
struggle to
flapping the
paddle.
side of the kayak the whole time.
Yeah,
And
and like because he's tiny, so getting in this thing like he has to paddle up here anyways. That's kind of why I got him the cushion to like lift him up. But dude, he's turning and he's like going after him and he's chasing these ducks all around this body of water. I was like, this is awesome. It was just so funny to me. I'm like, dude, this is the kind of stuff I want to see it. Like.
I wish my kids were more into the fishing stuff. So like my actual biological son, I call him my youngest and my oldest. I don't really think of them as like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
different, but
Mhm.
the fact is like he's not. He's the video, and I'm literally talking to you on a gaming PC, looking at 4 different monitors that you guys can't see. Like, I'm a nerd too, but I'm
Yeah.
also like, I'm like a weird hybrid between redneck and nerd, so it's like a weird combination. I'll go out and build stuff with 2x4s and PVC, but I can also diagnose and install a server. So like, it's kind of a weird combination of skill sets. But like, he's just not into it. So like, I have to try to find other ways to bond with him.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
that's something that I wish more people would embrace, is if their kids are into the outdoors, just take them fishing for 10 minutes. You
Yeah,
don't have
take
to
them
do
out
it
the
all
woods.
day. Go
Yep.
go walk through the woods with them. Let them explore. Let them pick up the salamanders and run around with them. Like, as a
Yep.
person who works for a company who makes software, as someone who makes YouTube videos that my viewership is based on how long you watch my videos, go outside and turn the goddamn screens off
Yeah.
and spend a little
Yes.
bit of time doing it. Like,
Yep.
that's what's funny about fishing YouTube, honestly. It's the most
Yep.
contradictory thing on the planet. It is me being outdoors, enjoying the outdoors, unplugging from the digital world with a 4K 60 frame per second camera. It's the most hypocritical thing in the world, being like, you need to get outdoors and be outside and enjoy nature. Just
But
watch
watch
me
me when you're
do it.
not.
Watch me do it on my lithium ion battery charged camera that I'm uploading to the internet and editing on a video game graphics card while talking on the internet on a video game microphone. Like, it's kind of a
Yes.
contradictory thing, but it's the world we live in, I guess.
Yeah, no, you're good. I don't find it contradictory at all. I find it like it would be more the duality of a human, the duality of you as a person. Like you are embracing both realms equally.
Yep.
As hippie as that sounds, I'm not a hippie, but
It's an ADHD skill. Honestly, it really
Yeah,
is. That's the thing about
yeah,
ADHD, is like, you tend to specialize in a field, and I kind of just specialized in like talking. The joke I always make, actually, we'll end the stream on this joke. The joke I
all right.
always made is, I literally had an older upperclassman in high school tell me, there's 2 ways to get girls. You've either got to be pretty or you got to be funny. And I like cake, so I chose funny. Because if I
Yes.
could make somebody enjoy my personality, it does means I don't have to go to Planet Fitness and work out for 4 hours. So
Yep. Yep.
it's
I
much
tried.
easier.
I tried to tell my wife that. I'm like, look, would you rather me be fat and happy, or would you rather me be like at the gym and like aggressive? And she's like,
Yeah, exactly.
I guess fat and
But yeah,
happy will
guys. So
work.
what we're gonna do is we'll probably end this right here. We're going on 3 hours. I do want to
Oh
say
yeah.
thank you guys for watching, because this is the most watched live stream I've had,
Really? Awesome.
hands down. Wait till I'm gonna show you the analytics after. But
Oh, cool.
we're gonna get him back on. Now that I've
Hey.
got him hooked and I've got him in the
Yeah.
conversation, and he realized that we're kindred spirits, we're just literally across the country from each other.
Yes.
We'll get him on more and we'll do some more talking. I do this every Tuesday, but honestly, my schedule's more flexible if people only have certain days they can do it. So
Yep.
we'll definitely get him back on. If you haven't checked out his socials, I'm gonna put a link down in the video to his Instagram. Do you do YouTube too, or is it just the Instagram
Yep.
stuff? You do
Yep.
post on both, right?
Yep. I have not put, like I said, I've been taking a
It's
break
been
from
a
the
while,
YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I have a YouTube. It's Wolf of Walmart. And then all the rest of my socials is underscore Wolf of Walmart.
Yep.
Yeah, I got my page hacked, so I had to add an underscore at the beginning. So, yeah.
Gotcha. But yeah, go follow him, hit him up, talk fishing with him. If you want to customize your kayak, hit him up on Instagram, and he'll probably have an hour and a half conversation about what kind of screws you should use, because that's how I am.
Yep,
By the way,
exactly.
the answer to that question is stainless. Do not use anything less than stainless, because they will rust and you'll regret it. But
Yep.
we're gonna end the podcast right here, and you're gonna laugh at this, but there's a reason why I picked Tuesdays, because then I can say at the end of the podcast, "See you guys next Tuesday."